'Cause I love you,
All right. Welcome to the Sunday show right here on The Line. The Line is a network where we do shows all week long. On most days, they're mostly call-in shows. We're adding more and more of them. They're on a number of different topics and niche topics within the broader secular, possibly lefty-ish, or at least non-MAGA communities. And the Sunday show is your opportunity to call in and explain what you believe and why. What kind of God do you believe in? What supernatural beliefs you have? And today's question, of course, is how can we find your God? It's really a different way of asking the same thing we've asked repeatedly. Clearly, if you believe in a God, then you think you found a way to discover and find that God. And we just need to tell us how you can do that. And since in 20 years, nobody has been able to explain this to me, clearly I'm the problem. So today, we want you to call in and explain it to Promise, because I have confidence that if anybody can explain it to me, Promise can explain it to me. So welcome. How are you? How you been?
I'm so happy to be back. I'm really excited to get to work with you today. I loved just hearing the intro. I was like, oh, it's like nostalgia because it's been so long. I know all the rumors of me leaving and never coming back. I've just been adapting to my move. I moved to Finland. It's a pretty big change, and the biggest change is the time difference. So that's what we've been working with. But I'm here today, and I'm so excited. I'm sad though because I hear that we've had less theists willing to call in, and this is wild to me because I know they're watching because they come and leave me comments and messages about it, and they email me about the shows after. I know that they have arguments because they're posting them in their comments every day on my content, and I would love to have these conversations with them because that's why I post the stuff I do, is to engage conversation and to actually respond. So if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, please call in. Matt and I want to talk to you and ask questions and find out why you believe what you believe and why you think we should believe it. And I guess how to find your God.
Now we're already starting off a little bit slow, and part of it's because the United States has just made the daylight savings time shift, and I think that the difference on the clock is messing up some of our viewers from around the world, because we may be starting an hour earlier, or maybe we're starting an hour late for them, or maybe we're starting at the same time and they were expecting to be different. It doesn't matter. I'm watching the numbers climb right now, and there's people starting to call in, but there's a lot of stuff that we do, including fundraisers. We've raised money for Recovering from Religion and the Secular Student Alliance. We do what we can to try to promote and build the broader secular community. This is kind of, I mean, those of you who know me, whatever you think of me, it's a 20-year plus life mission now. And it's important. It's important even though it feels like we are failing. I don't think we're failing so much at helping free people from religion. The latest numbers don't suggest that people are getting more religious. What they suggest is that certain religious sects of the community are feeling more empowered and being louder, in part because they're aligned with the Christian nationalist Project 2025 and the right-wing MAGA element, and so that's who's in power. And so now people are much freer with what they're willing to say and admit, and less interested in defending their views as rational. But in the process of raising money for these organizations, I'm going to have to get another tattoo, and there were a number of issues surrounding Forrest Zerba and a family of Zerbas. And Arden's here to tell you about how the special large donors from those events can get their goodies.
Yeah. Hey, y'all. Excuse me. So we've got our two main designs that you guys raised money for from the fundraiser. The first one is the Zerba family portrait design. So these were the ones that the host made in their challenges. We cleaned them up a little bit and slapped them all together. And you can see it says firmly with a little tongue down there. So for this was for the donors over 500, I believe. So there were details in the live stream of the fundraiser, and those same details are in the description now. If you email, contact a Q&A line with the subject line Zerba Super Donor. And some of you have already emailed me. It'd be helpful if you just hit it again. That way it puts it to the top of my pile on my emails. We will send you a link with the link to collect this design. And for the $100 donors at that last stretch to get the Zerb, the Monad Zerba hybrid shirt, you have Be Not Zerb Frayed here. And same thing, email contact at Q&A line with the subject line Zerba Club Donor, and we will get you links to this. This one will be available also on some cheaper designs on like t-shirts and hats for like $20. With, again, we're going to do the situation where there's a premium hoodie for $100 that helps keep, we expect only a few people to buy that, and that helps us keep the cost low and everything else. So all those information should be in the description below, and you can keep your eyes out on your emails for the next week, and we should be getting links out to you guys.
And that last one, the Be Not Zerb Frayed, the biblically accurate Zerba, that is a tattoo that I'm going to be getting because we crossed another threshold. And just like last time we did a big fundraiser, I wound up with a tattoo that Seth drew on my left calf. This time, I will have that tattooed on my right calf. So
that's amazing. The other one you got, that was the cat, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're going to end up having sleeves and everything by the end of this if you keep this
Y'all
up.
keep raising money for good causes. Yeah, raise money for good causes. You can decorate me however you want, within reason.
Right.
There's a couple things.
You guys heard it here first.
If you make it so that I never have to go get a regular job, where if I walked into an interview would look at me and go, yeah, then I'll keep working on that. But the other thing is, it's not just me anymore. There are probably some tattoos that my lovely and talented partner would rather I didn't get, and there's some that I would rather I didn't get. Like, we're probably not going to tattoo up my beautiful bald head for anything less than $25 million. However,
that's fair.
$25 million. Oh, by the way, that's to me, not to some charity, because my $25 million. I'll tat up my head.
Love it. Love it.
Hey, we got a couple callers queued up.
We do. Should we start with the first one?
So here's the thing. Genuinely, I would like people, and CS, when you call in, I like you to do your best to convince Promise, so that when she becomes convinced, she can explain to me. I'm mostly just going to have questions and kind of sit here, chill, and listen to my friend who I haven't got to listen to in a while, because I get to listen to me all the time, and it's a wonderful thing, I know, for everybody else, but I have to hear me all day, every day, and so I need a break on occasion. But yeah, let's get some folks in and see if you and I have missed something on this whole God thing.
Great. Looking forward to it. Should I bring on Danielle?
Go for it.
Hello.
Hello, Danielle. You are live on the line. I'm Promise, and this is Matt. How are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing today?
Not too bad.
So you say you are trying to figure out what you believe. So is this a call where you wanted to explain what you currently believe and us kind of talk that through?
Yeah.
Or was it more of a vague question? Because on the Sunday show, we try to have a pretty clear direction that the call is going rather than just like a vague advice call,
absolutely.
you know?
Yeah, I was hoping to talk a little bit about what I believe and how I view the role that faith can have in life, but also the problems I have with the church community, the faith community, and the modern state of religion within our Western world, and how it treats
Yeah,
specifically queer and trans people.
it might end up being that you should call into one of the other shows for this, because for the Sunday
Okay.
show, we really are just trying to stick with what God do you believe in?
Oh,
Why do you believe
yeah.
in that
No, that's
God?
fair.
And go from there. Because we're probably going to just
I
end up
do have
agreeing
something
with
to
you,
talk in that regards too.
which is great. Sure, if you had an
Um,
actual thing you want to propose that's something you believe that you think Matt and I should believe as well, then we could take that.
yeah. I think so. The main thing I look at when it comes to faith and spirituality and the idea of is there a God, is I look at the universe almost like it's from the perspective of a musician and an artist. I look at the universe as a piece of artwork, and how incredibly well crafted it is. It's imperfect, but it has so many amazing qualities to it that it feels like living artwork. And so that begs the question of, is there an artist behind that, and who is that artist, and what do they believe, right?
So
And
to be clear, you believe that the earth was created, that the universe was created. Is that true?
yeah, I just don't know what it was that created that universe. If it was
Do you think it
a being of
was a
God, or was it random chance, right?
well, those are very different things. If you're just saying you admire the universe and you think it's cool, I agree. But if you're saying you
Yeah.
think it was intelligently designed, then that's a whole other story.
Actually, yeah, that's a very good point. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think that there's probably some form of intelligent design behind the universe. I don't have the knowledge or the
Why?
wisdom to discern what it was that caused it, or why, right? And that's the great question, is the why
No, but
in life.
why do you believe that? I would ask, why do you think that there's intelligence behind the universe?
Because of the artistic beauty with how the universe is, how the universe interacts, how people interact with each other, how, you look at the earth itself and the environment around us, and there's so much beauty that in this world, and but there's also so much pain and suffering, but it comes from this real I don't know. That's really that's the tough one to explain, and I probably should have thought about this more before I called in.
Yeah, no, I would encourage you. It sounds like you're just more in a place where you're still playing around with these things and thinking about them, which I think is amazing.
Yeah,
But I would keep doing that. I would follow the questions all the way through and figure out why you're inclined to believe that there must be something intelligent behind it if you find it beautiful or interesting. Because, like you said, there's the other side of the coin. There's, for every flower, there's poison ivy, and for every
exactly.
sunset there's a disturbing disease, so there's all kinds of organic things that we perceive as both beautiful and terrifying. And I would go, keep listening to the calls for the rest of the show, and really hear
Yeah,
where some of this goes. Also, maybe somebody's going to call and convince all of us that there's a God. We don't know, we're very early on in the show.
exactly.
But I think just keep questioning. And I'm ready to take on our next caller, because I think we're probably just going to end up agreeing on all of
Absolutely.
stuff, unless Matt has something else he wants to add.
No, I just say that, when you're going through and asking the questions, it's one thing to look at, oh, there's a lot of beautiful things in the world. How would you know that a lot of beautiful things mean that it's more likely to have been the product of an intelligent designer? And if there's a mix of beautiful things and ugly things, does that make it more likely or less likely that it was the product of a designer?
Ooh,
What if there's more horrible things? And by the way,
exactly.
even if it was designed, was it designed for you or us? I mean, What if it was designed for that we're just a food product to feed, the plants? That was the purpose of it, or that this entire planet is just here to feed the sun and become part of the black hole generators. It's one thing to look at the world
Yeah,
and go,
that's
this is
interesting. I
really
like
cool.
that.
This is really cool. And it seems like, if there was a being that wanted me to live and enjoy life, this is something like I could imagine them creating. But you have to flip that on its head and say, if there is no creator, does that change my understanding of how I came to be? Because the evidence so far isn't showing any sort of intelligence.
Oh, yeah. No, I actually that's a very fair point, and I really appreciate the perspective a lot.
Sure. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you
much,
very much for having me
Danielle.
on.
Thanks.
Yes,
Have a
have a
great
good
day.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. First call down.
Yay.
And so far, so good. So let's see if we can keep this up. We have Fro from Norway, if you're ready for the next call. Wants to
I'm
present
ready.
the God from the Bible, which, I feel like I need to know why we believe a God at all, but we'll get there. Hello, Fro. You are live on the line with Matt and Promise.
Nice to meet you both.
Thank you.
You as well. So you say here you want to present the God from the Bible. Just to be clear, so are you a Christian?
Yes, I.
Okay, cool. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by present the God from the Bible, but I guess our main question is going to be, why do you believe in this God?
Well, I believe in the Bible. Therefore, I believe of the book, the God of. I guess.
So why do you believe in the Bible then? Because that's not really answering the question.
Well, I think it makes some claims that I believe in. For example, archaeological proof that I can see. I believe that things in the New Testament that Jesus did fulfilled some things that was spoken about in the New Testament. Yeah, there's things.
So I have a book. Actually, it's a 2-part series here, and it has some very historically accurate. It talks about locations in different cities, where you could go to some of these historic sites, and then some of the things it talks about happening potentially in book 1, it ends up happening in book 2. But I don't believe that these novels about they're ghost stories. I don't believe in ghosts, and I don't believe in the claims in the book because it's an author wrote them, and that's all I know about it. I have no reason to believe the other claims in them. So I guess my next question would be for you, why do you believe the supernatural claims of the Bible?
I mean, the honest question is probably because I have experienced things in my private life that would get me to believe those that you haven't experienced. I don't know if that's good enough.
For me, it wouldn't, because if I told you that about something else, let's say I told you, well, I had a personal experience that tells me your God is not real, but you would just have to
Yeah.
be there and trust me, that probably wouldn't be good enough for you. So I need something a little bit more convincing for me to completely change my beliefs. So what to you is the
No, I
most
understand that.
convincing
Yeah,
evidence?
no.
Yeah, what's the most convincing evidence to you that a God exists?
The most convincing would probably either be the tag argument or the Goldilocks zone. One of those.
Sorry, what was the first one that you said?
Tag, the
argument.
transcendental argument for the existence of God.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so? For example, let's just take care of the Goldilocks zone real quickly. If you get Delta Royal flush, does that mean the dealer cheated?
Probably not. No,
How would you tell whether or not that flush occurred naturally and honestly, or whether it was the result of manipulation?
I couldn't.
So, if you can't tell the difference for something like a hand of poker, which we know the odds of, and we know that people can, in fact, manipulate the results, what's your criteria for determining that reality is more likely intelligently tuned than not?
So I guess my thing is like the odds of us being here are so abysmally huge that I don't believe in consequences. Not consequences, coincidences. Sorry, my my English.
What are the odds? What are the odds that a God exists and intentionally created this reality for us? How do you know those odds are better than the odds of it occurring naturally?
I don't.
So if you don't know which one is more likely, how did you reach the conclusion that the God is more likely?
I guess I would just believe that it's more likely.
Okay, well, I hope you can
Do
understand why
you
what you believe isn't shouldn't convince anybody, including you. I mean, you're basically saying you've taken a position on something with the knowledge that you do not have sufficient information to take a position on it. I don't know how to react to that.
Yeah, but let's say I got Yahtzee 2,000 times in a row. Would you check my dice?
Sure. I don't have to check it
Yeah.
2,000. You don't have to do it 2,000 times in a row for somebody to check your dice. We understand how dice. We understand how dice work. And as somebody who used to
Yeah, the chance
gamble,
of those
I'm
getting
sorry. I'm sorry.
getting
I'm
yeah,
sorry. I was still talking. But as somebody who used
yeah,
to
sorry.
actually gamble for at least part of my living, um, they check the dice all the time at the craps table. And there are a number of different ways to check the cards. And there's constant observation in casinos, both from cameras and from this. And we know and understand the odds. And this is how we can
Mm.
kind of determine, hey, is this game legit or is there something weird going on? And you have to build up a case with cumulative results. How many universes are we able to investigate?
One.
Congratulations. That's the end of the story for that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that the planet we are living on, that has the life that it has, is so filled with that kind of life that it makes it weird for me to think that it's just by chance or by the process of
but
elimination
is
of
you
other
finding it
words.
hard, but just because you find that hard to understand, or just because you think that it's, rare, does that make it so?
No, but can you prove me another world that is just like this?
Well, no. In the
But I'm
universe,
not.
how many planets like ours would you expect to happen naturally in the universe?
Naturally?
Yeah.
0.
Well, why is it that you would expect no planets in the entire universe to have the characteristics that ours does? What is it about the universe that makes that impossible?
Human beings, I would say.
Why?
Because I haven't seen proof of life on other planets that would be even
No. So okay,
like
this
ours.
is 100. This is merely a fallacy. First of all,
Okay.
whether or not you've seen something is irrelevant to whether or not it exists. But also,
Yeah, no truth
you're
specimen.
saying,
Yeah.
but also, you're now saying that, hey, I haven't seen this, and until I do, I'm going to assume it's impossible without a God. Well, that's also a fallacy. You don't have any justification for that assumption. So you're
Well,
sitting
other than
here.
what the Bible tells me, I don't have
No,
any
no, no. The
justification.
Bible isn't a justification for anything. The Bible does not change the knowledge that we have about how likely life is to occur in the universe. There's nothing at all about the Bible even if it were true and you had good reason to believe it, that says, oh, here's what the odds are of life forming without God's assistance. Is there?
No.
Cool. So when you say that you have nothing other than the Bible, and now we show that the Bible can't do that, what you're saying is you have nothing.
I guess so, yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
I try to be honest in these types of conversations because I find
No,
it hard.
Yeah.
It's
I
great.
think you are, and I appreciate it. It just, we haven't heard arguments for the existence of a God. I think I've heard more why you are convinced, but I hope that we've showed you why some of those are just not strong reasons. Did you want to talk more about your tag argument? Although that one's really
The
fast because that's just
transcendental
this
argument for
claim.
God. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you have heard it 1,000 times before, but I guess we can't justify morality without God. Is
Can
more or
you
less
justify
not?
morality with God?
I believe I can, yeah.
Cool. How?
Through what he tells us to do and not to do.
So I'm not aware that a God has told us anything, and I don't know how a God telling us something would confirm any sort of morality other than an opinion from a God.
Well, if he made us, he has the right to tell us what to do.
Really? So if I'm your parent, I get to tell you to do whatever I want, no matter what? I'm the governor of what's okay. So why does God get to declare what morality is, even if he made us?
Because he made the premises.
What
He
premises?
made the laws.
How do you prove that? And by the way, even if you could prove that he has an opinion about morality, that doesn't mean his opinion is right. You're declaring that he has opinions and that they must in fact be right. You have got to justify both of those.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Okay.
I think
But
these are good things to think
I
about.
agree there are things that, sorry.
Continue.
No, I do agree that are things in the Bible that I find morally repulsive, like slavery, for
Good.
example.
That makes me feel a little better about you. That's good.
But it is I guess a lot of my morality claims become weird if we take those away, because I do agree that we have to take the whole Bible under. It doesn't help that Jesus says that we should love others like we love ourselves and things like that.
Except
Well,
I don't think what Jesus said was that helpful, because as Matt says all the time, as I say, you can do something better than love your neighbor how you want to be loved. You can love your neighbor how they would like to be loved. So I'm already more moral than Jesus is, one of his most famous sayings, just in that regard. And you just stated that you're more moral than the Bible, because if you're saying something about like you have to take the whole Bible in, well, then you have to take the whole Bible in, and then that means you have to justify some really horrific things. It justify the Bible can be used to justify some of the worst things that have ever happened to humans. And to me, if you're more moral than the book that you're saying you base morality on, I don't think you actually base your morality on that book, which is a good thing for society, but then you should be questioning what allowances you're making in your reasoning to allow that book to be the basis for something that you're already better than.
Well, I guess I can be 110% honest and say I'm definitely afraid of hell as well. That is definitely what
That's
drives
really
me
honest.
most.
Yes, I understand that, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Did you grow up in a religious home?
No, I did not. Both of my
When
parents
did you?
were atheists.
Okay, when did you first start becoming afraid of hell?
when I saw the movie The Prince of Egypt.
That's a really good movie, though. That's still one of my favorites. That soundtrack
I love that
is
movie.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, but
Watching the movie with me is very irritating, promise, because I know every single line from that movie, and I sit and quote it through the movie.
I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
it. But I think it's really cool that you're able to be honest enough with yourself and say, okay, really what's at the root of a lot of this is fear. And this fear
Yeah.
came from something that was designed to impact your emotions, which would be a piece of art, which was that movie. That soundtrack alone can make you feel all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah,
I
Deliver
would
Us.
give you some homework. Yeah, I would give you some homework and go sit with that and figure out why you're not afraid. You know, if you go watch movies about other religions, maybe go watch Thor. Tell me why you're not trying to get into Valhalla one day. You know, tell me why this is the thing that you picked, the Christian faith, and how do you know you're not pissing off a bunch of other gods? And I think that'll lead you to some other questions that'll help you figure out if you want to believe something because it's true or not, or because it just feels like something that'll make you feel better. And if you want to focus on what's true or not, you're actually going to experience a lot less fear in your life.
Well, I tried. I had a past where I was a Mormon for 4.5 years, and I walked away from that. Became very atheistic. It's actually just the latter 2 years that I've gone back to Christianity because I got older and more afraid of death. Um, and it kind of it got me into the spiral. So I have read the Quran, and I ask myself, why am I not afraid of the Quranic hell? And I think my honest take on that is because I just don't believe it.
It was earlier you had talked about what God said, and I was, I'm not aware. I said I'm not aware of any God saying anything to anyone, nor why it would matter if it did. And I had
Mhm.
then shortly after that, you said that Jesus said this, and I think one of the two questions you could ask yourself about this is, how do you know that Jesus said anything, or that you have an accurate record of what Jesus said? And why does it matter if Jesus said it?
Well, if I believe that he is savior of the world, and I actually believe that if I don't trust him, I will not go to heaven. I guess I'm afraid that is true.
Okay. Yes, if you begin with the very thing in question, which is that he is divine, that's what we're trying to
Yeah.
prove. If you begin by assuming that, then you can make excuses for anything. But we don't get to assume that. That has to be demonstrated. And so it's like, hey, why do you believe that God is the source of morality? Oh, because Jesus said this. Well, why does it matter what Jesus said? Oh, because I believe Jesus is God. But A, why do you believe Jesus is God? And B, how do you know that Jesus said anything, or that you have an accurate record of it? Well, if he's God, then he preserved the record. Okay, then why is it different between the Gospels? There is no rational explanation for the problems here unless you begin by believing and ignore the things that are problem.
Mm. So I guess I have a question. How do I get out of being afraid of hell then?
You might not. I know people who've been atheists for 50 years who still wake up with nightmares of hell. And that's because some religion indoctrinated them into being afraid of something. And until there's a demonstration that it is absolutely false, there's a motivation to remain afraid on some level, because it's been built up as a true thing. And so now the burden of proof in the head of the indoctrinated has shifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as long as it's shifted, you're not going to be able to get to, I don't know, peace on that front, other than by giving it some time. And I would also recommend the Secular Therapy Project as a potential resource to reach out to.
Yeah, and
Because
Fro,
I have tried to walk away from it, but every time I walk away from it, it's this voice in my head saying, "Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure?" And that keeps me like going back and still praying and still believing in the book of the Bible because I'm afraid that it could be true.
Yeah, fear is one of the strongest things, unfortunately. And I've dealt with that my whole entire life. I have those kind of things going through my head about all kinds of things all the time. And so my heart goes out to you with that because I know how strong it can be and how it can make you, have to align yourself with a book that, or make you think that you have to align yourself with a book that you're already demonstrably more moral than. But just to, reiterate what Matt was saying, secular therapy project is amazing, but recoveringfromreligion.org, they have these conversations with people regularly, specifically who are afraid of hell. I also know in Norway, there's I believe it's just the Humanist Association. Let me see exactly what it's called, but I think that's what it's called. And the people that are a part of that are incredible. And some of them used to be religious and have dealt with this kind of thing. And it would be really worth looking up. I'm sure they have a Facebook group, but let me see. And if I'm not able to find this for you right now, then I'll try to put it in the comments of this video later. The Norwegian Humanist Association. So yeah, I would go check them out because I've met some of the people a part of that, and they're really great people, regardless of any of this conversation. So I just wish you all the best, and I appreciate your honesty with us so much. And I hope you can continue to be that honest with yourself and find answers to some of these questions so that you don't have to live in this fear. And maybe sometimes the fear will still be there, but you don't have to make decisions off of that or live off of that, and let that be what guides you. So thank you so much for calling and talking to us.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. It's fun getting some international calls. Well, just we're representing all the countries over here. It looks like this next caller, I don't know if you saw, they're wanting specifically to talk to you about something. Are you down for that?
Oh, I'll give it a whirl. We'll see what happens.
Okay. Hello, Edwin. You are live on the line with Matt and Promise.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Alrighty.
Do you have a question
You're on,
for us?
Edwin.
Oh, yeah, just wondering why the argument that something can't come from nothing, and therefore whatever that something is God not accurate nor true.
So the claim that something can't come from nothing isn't an argument, it's an assertion. I don't know how you can justify saying that something can't come from nothing when A, there's never been a nothing that we have to investigate to find out what may or may not be able to come from it. But B, no one is asserting, it's not the naturalists who are asserting that something came from nothing. It is the creationists who are asserting that something came from nothing material, and that God has always existed and therefore did not come from anything. So they're the ones that are asserting that something has always existed.
So you're open to the possibility that something can come from nothing?
I'm open to any possibility, but I won't accept that it's true until it's been demonstrated to be true. If someone can show how something can come from nothing, then I will believe it's possible. Until then, I'm not convinced that it's possible, but I don't have sufficient information to conclude that it is in fact impossible.
So you're saying that it might possibly be true that it's consistent with logic to say that something comes from nothing.
There's nothing necessarily inconsistent or in conflict with logic about saying that something could come from nothing. That is not.
Wouldn't it imply self-creation or break the law of causality?
No. Why do you guys interrupt me right when I'm giving you the answer that you're looking for? It's really wild. So I'm not saying what might be. I'm saying nobody knows if it's as far as I can tell, nobody knows if it is possible or impossible for something to come from nothing. And there doesn't seem to be any way to find the answer to that. And the answer to that isn't relevant to what we're talking about.
Well, it'll be. I would say it would be irrational to say that something can come from nothing because it would break the law of
I don't care what you would
non-contradiction.
say. Edwin, I don't care what you say. I care what the evidence says. Do you have an
Evidence in what
evidence?
sense?
Do you have an evidence-based argument for your claim that something cannot come from nothing?
It's purely logical.
Okay, that's not an argument, and it's not true, and it demonstrates that you don't understand logic or how to make an argument.
How is that?
Because you did not make an argument. I asked you to make an argument for something, and you did not make an argument. Instead, you just made another unfounded assertion. I need you to make an argument that is backed by evidence to support your claim that something can't come from nothing. And until then, I'm not going to be convinced that something can or can't.
So saying that it will break the law of non-contradiction or it will break the law of causality is not an argument?
So first of all, the law of non-contradiction isn't broken in any way by the claim that something can come from nothing, and there is no law of causality in the foundations of logic. You're talking about identity, non-contradiction, and excluded middle. The law of causality isn't a part of logic. That's a view within science that cause precedes effect, and that contingent things have a cause. But there's been no demonstration that reality is in fact contingent, or that something can come from nothing, or that something can't come from nothing. How would you demonstrate that it's not possible for something to come from nothing? How do you investigate a nothing?
So when you're asking me to demonstrate it,
I just asked
what do you mean by
a
demonstration?
question. I just asked you a question. What was the question I asked you?
How would you investigate nothing?
Correct. Answer that.
You can't investigate nothing because nothing is the absence of anything.
So if you can't investigate nothing, what information can you glean about nothing?
The fact that for something to come about, it must be derived as something that was in existence. So if nothing
How did
is
you
the
get
absence
that
of
from
anything,
something that you cannot know anything about, as you just said? How do you know something about something that you cannot know something about?
I at least know that nothing is the absence of anything.
Okay. So what?
If I were to,
Has there ever been, to your knowledge, a nothing for anybody to investigate, and at any point in the history of whatever histories, has there ever been a nothing?
if it was, then it wouldn't be a nothing. So no, there hasn't been something. There hasn't been a nothing.
Okay. So you and I are in agreement that as far as we can tell, there's never been a nothing. There's no way to investigate a nothing. And that as soon as you try to put features on nothing, it stops being nothing. And so how has there ever been a demonstration about what is impossible or possible with regard to nothing?
I would say simply because nothing is not anything. So
Okay.
so to say
You're
that
not
something
serious, Edwin. You're not serious, Edwin. I can hear you laughing as you come up with things that are complete non sequiturs, that aren't in any way an argument, aren't in any way evidence, and aren't in any way a response in any cogent or thoughtful way to what we're actually discussing. You've already admitted there's never been nothing. I'm still talking. You've already admitted there's never been a nothing. You already admitted that there's no way to investigate a nothing. If there's no way to investigate a nothing, how can you reach the conclusion that something cannot come from nothing if you have no way to investigate that to find out if it's true?
So the reason I know that something can come from nothing is because the only way that something can come about is by something, not
Prove
nothing.
that. How do you prove that?
Because if you were to say that nothing brought about something, that would imply self-creation, or it would not be rational to say that.
Okay, so first of all, you're wrong. You don't get to define just to make assertions about what is or isn't rational. When you say the only way that something can come about is by something, you are assuming that something can't come by nothing. You don't get to create a circular argument where you assert that something must come from something and use that as a justification for saying that something can't come from nothing, and then use that as a justification for saying that something must come from something. Your entire position is circular, and even if it implied self-creation, which it does not, even if it implied self-creation, you've not given any demonstration that self-creation isn't possible.
Well, to say that something is self-created, it would have to be before it was, which is not being and being at the same time in the same way.
I'm sorry. I'd recommend you go listen to William Lane Craig and others talking about different models of time, that there may be simultaneous continuity or simultaneous causation as well. But even if that's wrong, you're still asserting things that you know to be true when you have no way of knowing that they're true.
Is it true to say that self-creation breaks the law of non-contradiction?
No, it's not true to say that, because self-creation isn't something that you can demonstrate or investigate in order to determine whether or not it violates that. I have to step away. I'm sorry, I have to step away from this for a moment, but promise I'll stay with you.
Okay. Hello?
Edwin, why do you believe in a God?
Why?
Yeah.
You're asking because of that argument that something can come from nothing. Therefore, whatever that something is God.
Where do you think that God came from?
Where did he come from? He didn't come from anywhere.
So what do you think about God then?
He's self-existent.
Why couldn't the universe be self-existent?
It can be.
So then why do you think there's a God involved?
The universe might be God.
That's not. So then how do you define God?
You just have another name for it.
So, well, then that's ridiculous. We already know about the universe. We have a word for it. Do you think that God is an intelligent being? Because if you just think that God and universe are interchangeable words, then this is I don't understand the conversation.
So you asked me if I think God's an intelligent being. Yes, I do.
So then you don't think that God is the universe, because do you think that the universe is an intelligent being outside of itself?
Well, that's a separate issue. The first issue that we should be discussing is, can something come from nothing? And then once we get that out of the way, then we can investigate if that something is intelligent or not.
No. That's not how any of this works. I have no idea if anything can come from something, or if something can come from nothing, or if nothing can come from something. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how you reach the conclusion that there's an entire God that is, as you said, an intelligent being. What is your evidence for that? Because saying that you, Edwin, don't believe something can come from nothing, which I've never claimed that it can. I have no idea. I don't know what the origins of the universe are. I don't know if there are origins to the universe. I don't know if this is all a simulation. I have no idea. But I'm trying to figure out how you figured out that there's an intelligent being.
So the reason I believe that he's intelligent, that God is intelligent, is because...
Oh, it's a he. So it's a he, and it's an intelligent being. So please explain to me how you figured out that this God exists.
So the reason I believe he's intelligent is because intelligence doesn't come from the unintelligent.
No, Edwin, that's not my question. How did you figure out that this God exists? much less is intelligent.
Because he
We've
must,
already decided that
because he
you
must
think.
exist, or else nothing would be.
How did you reach that conclusion? What if everything is and there's no God? What's your evidence that there is a God? I feel like you're intentionally being dishonest.
So in order for anything to be, there must be being that's self-existent, or else nothing could possibly be. And that self-existent
Okay,
being
so then back to
is
my original question. How do you know the universe just hasn't always been in some way, shape, or form, and it's not an
It might
intelligent being?
be. Okay, I'll give
Then
you
it's
that for
not a
now.
God. Then it's
But
just.
the only
Then it's not.
thing,
Then
the
it's
only
not that. Then there's no reason to believe that there's a God, Edwin, because so far you've failed to give any single piece of evidence that there is one, other than you saying, "Well, there has to be because I say there does."
okay, so I just want to make sure that we agree that nothing can come from something, or something can't come from nothing.
No,
If we
we
agree on
don't.
that, then we can move on to the intelligent portion
No,
of it.
no, because I'm not going to dumb myself down for this conversation. Matt already made it clear to you. We have no idea because you can't even explore what nothing even is. And as soon as we start defining it, then I feel like it's not even nothing, anyways. So, no, I can't agree with you on that because I simply,
Why move on to
Edwin,
it?
because I simply do not know if something could come from nothing or not. So we're moving on to the part where you made a giant leap and decided that a God exists. And I'm asking you how you determined that to be true. What is your evidence that a God exists?
The evidence that God exists because there's something rather than nothing.
How do you know that?
How do I know that? Because I know that I exist.
Edwin, this can't be serious.
This is really serious.
How do you know that an entire
do
being, do you think God is all powerful?
Again, you're moving on to attributes of God.
Nope.
First, I want to establish that nothing can produce anything. Once we establish that, we can move on to why do you believe God is powerful? Why do you believe God is intelligent?
We can end the conversation. Okay, I'm going to mute you. We can end the conversation if that's what you're going to cling to, because I answered you a bunch of times. Matt went on and on and on answering you and making it very clear why your assertion is not backed by anything. And so we're not going to agree with it because I just told you, I do not know. I do not know if something could come from nothing. I don't even know that that's relevant to this conversation. You claim to know that there's a God. And I'm asking you if you think that that God is all powerful, because that does matter to me in this conversation, because I'm trying to figure out what God you believe in and why you believe this God exists. So far, you have not given me any answers. So do you want to tell me, is the God you believe in all powerful?
So I believe in the Christian God, but that's irrelevant if something can come from nothing. Because if something can come from nothing, then God's irrelevant.
Hey, Edwin,
then perhaps
what was my answer to you when you asked me if I think that something can come from nothing? What was my answer on that topic?
You said you had no idea.
Great. So now what?
So now can I explain to you why something can't come from nothing?
You have already been talking about that for 16 minutes. Do you have something new to say? Do you have new evidence that something can't come from nothing? Have you been able to explore nothing since Matt asked you earlier if it's possible to know something about nothing?
So the reason I believe that something can't come from nothing is because it implies self-creation. What do I mean by that? I mean that it would
Are
have
you going to say anything new other than what you had? You had this conversation with Matt. Matt already addressed all of this. You were done. We had already established that Matt and I do not agree with your assertion and that you still didn't provide any evidence for it at all.
What kind of evidence do you want?
I would like to know why I should believe that a God exists. I would like to know how you are so sure that one does. I'm sitting here, I've given you extremely honest answers, and you continue to just evade my actual questions. You believe that the
No,
Christian
you asked.
God exists. Do you not have evidence that this God exists, Edwin? Do you believe in an entire God and you don't have a single piece of evidence that it exists?
The evidence that I have the evidence that I have that he exists is that something does exist. But you asked me for evidence that how do I know that
Where is your
something can't
evidence
come
that
from
a God
nothing?
exists,
And I'm
Edwin?
asking
This
you what
is
kind
so
of evidence you
dishonest.
want.
Any evidence.
That's what I was trying to say, but then you interrupted me. So my other evidence is that it breaks the law of causality.
Wait, are you saying I interrupted you?
No,
No.
I
I
think
don't
he
even know you
I'm
were there.
sorry,
sounded.
I misheard.
We
I thought you
circled
were
all
still
the
on.
way back around. I've answered, just to catch you up, Matt. I don't know if you heard, but I answered Edwin's question very honestly over and over and over again. He cannot let go of this idea. And I'm just sitting here dumbfounded that somebody believes in the entire Christian God, and their only piece of evidence that they're able to give me for this God is that they think something can't come from nothing, to which I've said, I have no idea if it can or can't. And this is the
Why don't we
only
just,
evidence Edwin has for us today.
Edwin, let me try something real quick, and that is, you and I agree that we have no reason to think that there was never nothing. We both think there was always something, right?
Yes.
Okay. You think that the something that was always there is some version of the Christian biblical God, right?
Yes.
Okay. And my answer to what was always there is, I don't know. Now, how do we tell that you're right and that that we shouldn't be saying, I don't know what it is, that we should in fact be saying it's the Christian God? How do we get from where I'm at, that something always existed, but I don't know what it was, and I don't know anything about its state, and I don't have any way to investigate it? How do we get from that to your position, which is that you do know the answer and that it is the Christian God of the Bible?
Okay. So you're saying that something always existed. You're convinced of that, right?
No, Edwin, I'm saying for the sake of argument, I do in fact think that there was never a point where there was nothing. What there was, I don't know. You're claiming you do know. How do you get from my position, which is something always existed, I don't know what it was, to Edwin's position, the Christian God of the Bible is what always existed? How do you get from where I am to where you are?
So then my question would be,
No. It's not time. It's not time for questions, Edwin. It's time for you to answer my question. How do we get from something always existed, but I don't know what, to something always existed, and I know it's the Christian God of the Bible? What is that process that goes from that one position to the other?
well, it might not be an easy process, but I can give it a try.
Well,
So I
you're
would
the one
say
that, I'm Edwin. Edwin, listen to me. You're the one that's gone through that process. You went from, according to you, believing that something must have always existed to reaching the conclusion that the something is the Christian God of the Bible. So make the evidence-based argument for that process.
I did make that decision, but it might not be easy to articulate. Let me give it a try. So the reason
That's
I believe
that's
that
the
it's
whole point of the show, Edwin. I don't need you to tell me how hard it is to do. I just need you to do it.
so I would say that it's a personal God because personality does not come from the impersonal.
I'm still listening.
Well, we can address that if you want.
Okay. I don't see any reason to think that that's true. I think that personality is a label that we apply to characteristics of conscious beings, and that conscious beings arrive through natural processes from things that are not, in fact, conscious. And so the personality is a product of my brain, which is a product of natural causes. And everything about it demonstrates that it is physical. because physical damage to and interaction with the brain can cause you to change your personality, change your likes, change your preferences, change your beliefs, and even divide your brain into two independently communicating personalities, one of which is a theist and one of which is not a theist, as we've seen in split brain patients via V.S. Ramachandran, which you can go learn about. So I reject your assertion that personality doesn't come from the impersonal. But even if I agreed with you that personality doesn't come from the impersonal, that doesn't mean that it's a God or the Christian God. But keep going.
So I think we have to stop there, because if you don't agree with that, then I would have to address that.
Okay, then go adjust that. Thanks, Edwin.
Did you hang up?
Oh no, but I'm waiting for
Oh.
Promise to. We've got four of the theists, and you just admitted that we're stuck and you've got work to do.
Yeah, I think, Edwin, go back and listen to this call. I know when you're talking, it's probably hard to see where things went south, but there was several times where we asked for gave you opportunities for some clear answers here. And I think you should have clear answers to those before holding such a huge belief, which is that a certain, very specific God exists. And it would only benefit you to go back and listen and figure out what you believe and why you believe it, and then maybe call back another time.
Okay, so when you guys ask for evidence that evidence for what I was saying,
I'll
that
just say it
something
again.
can come from nothing, what
go
kind
back
of
and-
evidence is that?
Go back and listen to the call, and go back and listen to the call. We're just looking for you to answer the questions that we asked, and that didn't really get done.
Listen to me very carefully. You should never ask us what sort of evidence we're looking for, because we want to know what convinced you. Because if what convinced you is good, then it will also, or should also, convince us. And if what convinced you is not good, then we can explain why even you should not be convinced of this. So it's pointless to ask us what kind of evidence, because I have no idea at all what sort of evidence would convince me that a God exists. But if there is a God, that God absolutely knows what should convince me, and that God should be able to produce it. And if you are, in fact, someone who possesses a rational belief, then you should be able to present that rational belief to us. We shouldn't have to do any work. You can just act like we're 5-year-olds that don't know a damn thing about anything and present your case.
So the reason I was convinced that something can't come from nothing is because it breaks the law of non-contradiction.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. The law of non-contradiction. No, you can't explain, because you're wrong and you're making everybody dumber by trying. The law of non-contradiction applies to arguments, and arguments only, not merely this isn't possible physically. The laws of logic, identity, non-contradiction, excluded middle, are content agnostic. They don't know or care anything at all about what is or isn't physically possible. They just hold that whatever is physically possible, and whatever isn't physically possible isn't. And that nothing is both possible and impossible, and that everything is either possible or impossible.
So, but if it goes against those laws, it would be irrational to say
nothing at all about something coming from nothing violates those laws.
Well, can I explain?
No, you can't explain. I've given you a million opportunities to explain. There is nothing about something can't come from nothing that you can demonstrate violates the law of non-contradiction, because it's not something that could violate the law of non-contradiction. You don't have equivalence there. You need to go off and study this.
Yeah, like I said, go back, listen to the call, listen to what Matt said in the very first 5 minutes of this. I think it'll help you. But thanks, Edwin. Have a good day.
All right, thank you.
Hey, real quick before
All
we
right.
move on to the next
Yes.
call, I didn't mention to people for the merch stuff that there are merch designs currently available on linemerch.com, and that link is now in the description. So, and that is specifically the Mozerb thing. So if you wanted any of the merch designs with that on it, you can go get those right now on linemerch.com.
Amazing.
Awesome.
I love when we get to hear Arden's voice for a moment in between.
Yes.
It's
I am
a
lucky
nice
because I get to hear
reprieve.
it more than any of you. Ha, ha, ha.
I know. I'm very jealous. Well, we have several other theist callers on the line. And also, I just want to remind everybody that's calling in, we are looking to take calls from theists today. I appreciate the atheist callers, but we want to talk to people who believe in a God and want to tell us why they believe in that God and have that conversation. So if you're just kind of calling for a general Q&A or to even just agree with us on something, love it. That's great. Thank you. But you're probably better for another show or, I think Matt has an email. I have Instagram, all of that stuff. So anyways, on that note, Matt, are you ready for another theist caller?
Ooh, I wouldn't mind 11.
I was just looking at that one. Let's talk to Elias. That's who you're talking about, right?
Yep.
Great. Hey, Elias, how are you? You're live on the line with Promise and Matt. Hello? If you're on the web caller, you might have to tap your phone screen.
No, they're on their phone.
Okay.
Maybe put them back in the queue,
Elias?
maybe.
Yeah. We'll try somebody else and we'll come back to you.
I'm good with any of them.
Let's talk to Jay then. Not sure exactly about this call, but we'll see where it's going. Hey Jay, you are live on the line with Matt and Promise.
Hey, what's up? How y'all doing? You can hear me
Not
good?
bad. Well, there's some kind of like voice modulated garbling, but I can make out what you're saying.
Oh, okay. It's probably my headset. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I got a different view on the whole theism thing. You know, everybody looks at God.
Hey
Well,
Jay,
I'm sorry. You was gonna say something?
your audio is really
Let me
difficult to
let me
understand. Are you able to
oh,
switch to
let me
something
take off
else?
my headset. How about now?
That's so much
Hello.
Yep,
better. Thank you
that's
so
better.
much.
Thanks.
Just so we can make sure us and the audience can hear you. Okay, so you're calling in
Yeah,
because
for
of
sure.
what?
No, I'm saying I got like a different viewpoint to the whole theism thing. You know, like people think about God and they think about scripture. They point to a book right away. I don't know. To me, I look more to science, right, for my worldview. But I don't think science closes the book on the possibility of something more. You know, I
So
think
the
it
thing is,
has.
Something more
Go
than
ahead.
what?
Sorry.
yeah,
Like
You don't think it
something more
closes the
than
door on
beyond
what?
this life. Beyond this life. Something beyond this
so
life. And that. Yeah. Sorry. Go
so
ahead.
so science. It doesn't matter whether science closes a door to something. What matters is there a demonstration that it is likely, possible, or true? And so science doesn't make any claims about the supernatural or afterlife, but it does make claims about what's demonstrable and testable in this life. And so far, we have no evidence to confirm an afterlife, and plenty of evidence to show that there's almost certainly not an afterlife. And so, what is it like? You call in and you're like, oh, well, science hasn't closed the door on it. Okay, we're not looking to close the door on something. We're looking for somebody to demonstrate that it's true.
Okay. So, do you think that in due time, with the progress we're making with our technology, that we could develop more sensitive tools to do our science? Like, for example, we got the
I
Lubar
don't know
Space
how this
Telescope
is.
that
I don't know how this is relevant.
because
You
that
believe
could
in
advance our science. Sorry, go ahead.
you believe in this right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, I theorize it. I theorize
You
it.
theorize it. Okay. Do you think it's true? Do you think the statement "we live on after death" is true?
I mean, if I had to put a bet down, I probably would bet yes. Not us
Okay.
particularly. I would think that there's
Do you
something in us
believe
that carries on.
do you believe the statement "some God exists" is true?
Like I said, I can't confirm or deny, but in my
Then you
opinion,
have
if I had to put my bet, yes.
Jay, respectfully, you've called the wrong show. The purpose is for you not to call in and say, "Hey, when I think about these things, I theorize," even though it's not a theory. You're hypothesizing at best, and if it's untestable, you're just making shit up and going with what you feel. We don't need book reports on what people feel. We need somebody to demonstrate that their feelings are justified and rational or true.
Well, I mean, when I look at the environment we're in now, people, we live and we die, and the things that embody us, all the materials, it gets reused in the universe, and part of what is embodying you now is materials that embody people prior. You know, it's like a recyclement going on there. So
what?
me seeing that happening is not something, like, it's not far-fetched for me to believe that there could be something happening
Jay,
like that with the conscious
what
mind.
Matt's trying to
you
tell
know?
Jay, what Matt's trying to tell you is this show is not like those are conversations to go sit and have with a friend and be like, man, maybe this is a thing, maybe this is. This is not the show for that. We're not just like sitting here speculating baselessly about things. We are having people call in and say, if they believe in a God, if they do, we want to know why, and we want to know why we should believe in that God. So if you're just speculating and this is just like, oh, this sounds cool, that's great. Go have those conversations with friends, and we'll move on to our next caller if that's all good with you.
So good, no problem. Just, I feel like there's other opinions than just the ones
I don't give a shit.
from
Jay,
scripture.
they're opinions.
Jay,
but those are opinions.
I don't give a shit about other opinions. I don't give a shit about other hypotheses. What I care about is whether or not what people believe is rational and true. Do you have a rational, true belief that you'd like to defend? If not, we're just going to move on because that's the purpose of this.
I hear you. So one last question. Doesn't science do that? Don't they theorize, and that's how they get to their conclusions?
Science, the various scientific processes involve observation and constructing an hypothesis which has to be testable, which includes the proposition of falsifiability. And then you have to then develop the way to test that, because some things may be testable in principle, but untestable in practice. Like it's testable to explore Mars to find out if there's a diamond buried under Mars that is shaped exactly like my head, but it is completely impractical to test it now. So it is in fact testable in principle. Then science, once it's done the testing, models it creates a model or a theory that needs to be submitted to others to investigate with regard to peer research to see if we're able to replicate or falsify the results from that testing. And only after all that do you have a tentative model that is supported by the best evidence and has been reviewed by people trying to see if they can poke holes in it, and becomes tentatively the best supported model, and we accept that it is probably true.
I hear you. I hear you.
Can
So,
anybody do that for God?
Well, maybe not God in the traditional aspect. I always feel like God is something that complicates people. Once you mention the word God, it's so many different can of worms open up, even from theists of the same scripture. So it's like, what is God really when you want to define it?
Jay, can you do it for your beliefs?
Yeah, but the thing is with me, God could be something that is just the highest level of consciousness. That's what That's
So
what
you don't even have
surmise it to.
you don't even have a definition of God. You're just saying God might be this, God might be that, and you
The
think
highest
that's test,
the
and you
highest
think
level
that,
of consciousness.
and you think that's testable. How? Let's just go with your pulled it out of my ass definition of God, that he's the highest level of consciousness. How do you demonstrate that
Mm.
there are levels of consciousness, that you are aware of what the highest one is, and that the highest one warrants being called God? Demonstrate those three things.
Well, for starters, we know that we have a higher consciousness level than animals per se. Like we
No,
know
no, I
that
don't know that.
consciousness levels. Yeah, well, I mean, we could perceive more things. We could go to different planets. You know, we could send out
I'm
telescopes.
sorry. I'm
A
sorry.
giraffe
I
could
don't
never do
understand.
that.
I'm sorry, but I don't understand how that's levels of consciousness. And there are plenty of animals that perceive things that we don't perceive.
I hear you, but you know, consciousness is not just necessarily being awake. Like you said, it's they perceive things we don't perceive, but we perceive more things that they don't perceive, and we are
How do you know
actually
that?
the highest
How do you know
level.
that? How do you know that?
Well, well, I mean that as in like a literal sense of like we can kill them if it comes down to it. We could like make a bomb and like destroy things and like make guns, and you get what I'm saying? Like we have
No,
a
I don't
different
get what you're
level to
saying. I
survive.
don't get. No, I don't get what you're saying. You're talking about things that we're capable of doing, and you're saying that this means that we are a higher level of consciousness that know that can experience more things, or detect more things, or what. None of that is true. What we have are brains
Can
that
we
work
not?
different and are better in certain areas than some other brains. But there's no evidence that this is necessarily a higher level of consciousness, or that consciousness is something that can be divided into levels. Or even if we have a higher level of consciousness, that doesn't mean that you can find the highest level, or that the highest level is God.
Well, my rationale for that is that if there is levels, right, and consciousness is something that has levels to it, or maybe, you know, according to my theory, you know, if
You don't
there
have a
is indeed
theory.
something that made
Theories
us,
have to be testable.
if there's, sorry, go ahead. If indeed something made us, it would have to be something that is conscious to a degree. If it
Okay.
made a conscious choice to
No, no,
make
no.
us,
So
and I
you're saying that evolution by means of natural selection, that natural processes with self-replicating molecules isn't possible?
no, I believe in the theory. What I'm saying is
You just said
the
whatever
Earth
created
even
us had to
coming
be
about,
conscious.
the universe.
You just said that whatever created us had to be conscious. And in the colloquial sense, evolution is the process that created us, and evolution is not conscious and does not have a goal. It is merely descriptive of biology happening.
I know, and that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
We
I'm done.
don't know the full. All right, yeah, okay, you can be done. It's cool. Yeah, y'all have a blessed day. I don't want to
No.
disrupt
Promise
you.
may
I was
not be
just
done.
trying to share my
Promise
opinion.
Promise may not be
Uh,
done. I don't care what your opinion is. I care what you think is justified and rational. And I asked you to defend it, and you said that you had a testable version of God, and then you came up with a bunch of stuff that's not testable.
No, I said that, you
yeah.
know, given certain things I observe in reality, I'm sorry, promise, I didn't mean to cut you off. Things that I
All good.
observe naturally in the natural world, I see room for questions for maybe something
See,
more there
I am
that maybe our science can't
Jay,
detect.
Stop talking. I am so done with this bullshit. Do you recognize that there's a difference between saying, I am convinced this is true, and saying, I'm convinced there's room for the possibility that this might be true? Do you recognize those are two different things?
Slightly.
Slightly my ass. One is
They're very
convinced that
different
it's
things.
true. The other one is convinced that it's possible. The fact
Well,
is it
that's what I'm
is it the
saying.
case? Okay, go ahead.
That's what I'm saying. Making any definitive statements, there is a God, there isn't a God, to me, that's irrational
So Jay,
anyway. For
this is where maybe, I don't know if you're new to the show. Matt and I'll just speak for myself. I have never said there is no God. but I definitely don't believe that there is one because I don't see, I'm not convinced, and nobody's been able to convince me. There's no evidence that's been convincing. And there are some God claims that I could probably go on the record and say that God claim is there 100%. There's no way that that's even possible. But I think you've called in thinking that you're explaining like, hey guys, there's like other ways to look at this. And if you look at it this way, then it's kind of cool and all of that. That's not what this show is. Like I said, that's like a conversation to have with friends for fun because I want to participate in reality and I want to believe things that are
It is
aligned with
reality.
reality. And so like
It
sitting
is.
here and having this idea, like, because also I could tell you like, what if this is all just a dream and everything's just totally made up and it's a dream from this one person and you know everything's fake, blah, blah. We could sit here and have these conversations, but that's all that they are, is their what ifs and their opinions and their I have this idea. And honestly, a lot of them we can even go ahead and say like that's just not a great path to go down because you've already lost me on some of the things you've said. So I think like I said earlier, I don't think this is the show for you. I love that you're wanting to have conversations where you explore ideas, but you've got to keep questioning them and figure out if you want to believe something because it's true or because it's cool to speculate about. So on that note, I'm going to let you go,
No,
Jay,
no
so we can get to
problem.
these other callers. But I appreciate
Take
you
care.
calling in, and we'll talk to you some other time. Bye bye.
Have a nice day.
You too.
We had another caller that dropped earlier that we both said, oh, we want to take that call. So I think it was Elias. So if you're listening, call back. I don't know what happened with the phone, but your call got dropped. Maybe your phone died or something. But in the meantime, we have. Do you have a preference on which of these we take next?
No,
Maybe the second?
I am fine with either. I just, it's, I just hope that I hate having to say the same thing over and over again. If we get to a point where we can see that the caller's not going to make any attempt to do the thing that we need to do on the show, like I'm glad that you found something that you don't necessarily think is impossible. That does me no good because I not only haven't necessarily said it's impossible, and if I have, we should be having a conversation about that. But I'm looking for people to say, hey, here's how you can find my God. This is what you can do, Matt. This is what you can do, Promise, to find God.
Yep, I think that's the misunderstanding. So I'll say it again in case we still have some theists that are considering calling or not. Please do call, but call if you have a God belief that you are prepared to defend, that you want to tell us very clearly what you believe and why you believe it. If you're just kind of like, well, I think this thing could be possible, or I like the idea of this, or, something along those lines, unfortunately, today is not, this is not the show for you. Maybe Skeptalk, sometimes they take different calls like that. And even on Chewed Gum, I know we were taking some calls where we can explore some ideas together and talk about some things and maybe even challenge some of them. But Sunday show, we're talking about gods or God claims rather, until someone gives us reason to say we're talking about actual gods. So yeah, I guess we can get into our next caller. I'll just go down the line. We can talk to Sam. Sam is calling in from Florida. Hey, Sam, you are live on the line with Promise and Matt.
Hello, can you hear me good?
I hear you.
What was?
It's a little
Yeah, it's a
quiet,
little.
but I can hear you.
Say something again for us, Sam.
I'm right here. Oh, the stream is
Cool.
still going. It confused me. I thought you was talking.
Oh yeah, turn that down and it'll be less confusing because there's going to be a big delay.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for taking my call.
Yeah, no problem. So what did you want to talk to us about today?
I've been a fan of the show and I heard many of the arguments and I go ahead and I look to see oh, it does say this and that in the Bible over there, so hey, what about that? But as Matt will often go ahead and say when for making the argument, oh, let me go ahead and put back on my theist cap. I can still do that. And he goes ahead and make an argument. Like, I could kind of do that as well, but for like gaining motivation and energy in life, like it still feels wonderful to put that hat back on, despite hearing many of the arguments that Matt has made.
Are you asking kind of like how to stop putting that hat on? Because it sounds to me, because I know what you're talking about. Matt is making a choice to like let me put that hat back on, or I can sit there and I can kind of think through how I would have argued something when I was a Christian and all of that. But that's definitely a choice, and usually one that's not fun for me to participate in. It sounds to me
Yeah.
like you're describing something slightly different, where for whatever reason, maybe it's an emotional issue, maybe it's a technical answer about the world around you. Sometimes it's easier for you to go back into the religious mindset. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I wonder,
The day is
Sam.
just,
I wonder, Sam, if for your whole life until yesterday, you thought you were going to inherit $1 billion a year from now, and so you've been living your life with that expectation that a year from now you're going to be a billionaire. And yesterday, you found out that that's not true, that there's no good reason to think it's true, and that everything you've done in service towards that eventuality has been time wasted. If you ran up debts, if you have bills expecting that you'd be able to pay them in a year, if you made plans about your future and what job you were going to take, what positions you were going to turn down, all because you're going to be a billionaire, you just found out yesterday that all of that effort is wasted. Would it still feel good to put on, I don't even know how you would do it, but to pretend like you're still going to be a billionaire in a year?
I was seeing how that would be analogous, and like I guess it will be explained to my answer of like, yes, it could still feel good that you're about to inherit all of that. Like you have faith that because something that could be a problem is, hey, well, maybe you don't work on any skills because you don't have any faith that you could put those skills to work. But if you had $1 billion, whatever you develop talent is, you could go ahead and do whatever you want with that talent, you know? So to still believe that you're going to get that $1 billion, even after you figure out, hey, there's no good reason to believe that, it could still be a fantastic feeling.
Okay.
And useful feeling.
It couldn't be for me. I find that absolutely vile and repugnant. It's like saying, oh, I don't have a disease, but I'm going to keep taking the medicine. There's no reason to do that.
The placebo effect is real.
I didn't say placebo.
Well, a medicine that does nothing would be a placebo. Like
Placebo,
if they just gave you a sugar pill and they said this will help you with your heart.
A placebo is something that has no medicinal value.
Yes,
that's different.
We found
if you take medication that you don't need, you will get sick. You're taking chemicals that can be harmful. They are there to do something or fight something or change something. And if that something isn't there, some of them will flush through you, but others will cause permanent damage to your body. Placebos will not do that. Continuing to take medicine that you thought was for an illness you don't have, there's not a doctor on the planet that would say that's a good fucking idea. It's not a placebo. And even if it were a placebo, I'm opposed to giving people placebos as well. Because if there's something actually wrong and a placebo helps it and a placebo has no medicinal value, that means that they didn't get the treatment that they need. And so we should be working towards an actual cure and not a placebo.
Sam, do you want to believe things because they're true, or is that not a high value to you?
I don't like to believe things because they're true.
Great. I think if you just put that as kind of your guiding light of filtering things through, do I really think this is true or not? And go from there. And I understand there is I understand the indoctrination element. I don't know how you grew up necessarily. I understand the religious trauma element. But I would treat that as a side thing. I would treat that as, reaching out to recovering from religion or the secular therapy project, because that is you needing to address the symptoms of following something that isn't true. So figuring out what you believe, that should be focused on, do I think this is true or not? And then when it comes to, okay, but it feels bad to think that I'm not going to heaven someday. That's another issue to go address. I would try to keep them separated. Does that make sense?
Yes. I need to find
I'm not
recovery
sure
from
if that's
religion, that organization. Okay.
Yeah, they're really great, and they have resources for this very specific kind of thing where you're struggling with what you believe versus where your brain keeps taking you, because our brain will take us back to what it's familiar with and back to what is comforting until we give it reason not to. And sometimes that means we need to develop better tools for getting through life. And I will tell you from experience, reality has offered me significantly better tools for dealing with reality than fantasy or than denial of reality, which is to me what religion was offering.
I feel like I'm able to use both in the current state that I am in. And like, since the thought popped across my head is just, I guess, like, there will also be fear of, well, what if I take away this, religion from my tour belt, and then, I kind of wish I still had that for like some extra
Give me an
motivation in life.
example. Well, give me an example of something that you get from religion that you can't get anywhere else that helps you in life.
Oh, fear of death, like for self-preservation. Because, like, without that, it's
And
just
why
kind
does
of like,
why does religion make you not afraid of death? And why is that
no, it
so?
makes me.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it does make me afraid of death, which is a positive for like self-preservation, for like motivation on that, in the tough times.
And can you explain, so fear of death in that you are afraid you would go to hell, and so that's your motivation to keep living? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think what I said just a second ago is what's going on here. I think there's a side component here of it would be so beneficial for you to talk to somebody that specializes in religious trauma. The Secular Therapy Project has that. Because what you're describing to me is something that comes from religious trauma. I've been there, I get it. But what feels like a helpful coping mechanism is not actually serving you well. And eventually that's going to run out, especially if you don't actually believe it's true. Do you genuinely believe that there's a hell?
It feels like it. The fear, the amount of fear I have, like, I gotta believe that's real, right?
Do you think that fear indicates truth? Like if somebody's afraid of something, does that mean that thing is true? Like when I was a child, I was really afraid of the basement. I thought that there was like I thought that there was a giant Big Bird. I must have dreamed this as a kid, but I thought that Big Bird lived in our basement, and I was so scared to go down there. Does that mean that Big Bird lived in my basement and was going to jump out and scare me? Because I
No,
was terrified. Right. So how would we determine if it's true or not? Like is your
but
fear of hell indicative of it being real?
some things, even without them being true, like, will still be beneficial. Like, I've been watching Matt, so like, yes, with him going there, say like, well, if you thought there was a lion in the bush, even if you was wrong, if you were scared of that bush, well, you are more likely to survive because, well, maybe there was a lion waiting for you in that bush. So I mean, this would kind of be the same thing where
There are
no,
there are two different types of errors: false positives and false negatives. If you think there's a lion in the bush and you run away and there is, then even though you had no reason to think so, you will benefit from not stepping into the bush and dying. But if you don't think there is, when your understanding of reality doesn't match up with reality, you will either die because you'll think there's not one when there is, or you will think there's not one when there's not, which means you'll be fine going into that bush. So there's benefits in either way, but knowing what the truth is and having the most rational view of the truth is going to be the most beneficial, right?
Well, in my case, what we're talking about is like to have that fear of death. Like, let's say I'm caught on a train platform and I need a struggle to go ahead and, like, not be in the accident.
But Sam,
It's like,
that issue is something that a therapist is going to have to talk with you about. We can't logic you into finding joy and contentness in living a life. I wish that I could. I wish I could sit here and debate you into that. But that is something that I really think you should look into the Secular Therapy Project when it comes to something that you're arguing about as far as, reasons to live. That is a serious thing. I agree that it's a valid thing. I would rather you be here than not. So I think that's something for you to reach out to somebody with and talk about that issue. But that is a separate issue than, is this thing true or not? Because to me, it sounds like you're confirming that you don't know necessarily that it is true, and you don't necessarily care, because if there's value to it to you, then you don't really, like, the truth part isn't a factor here, because this is an emotional need of yours. And that's something to address with a therapist. And I don't want to talk too much about that because I'm not a trained professional. I can't help you with that.
Sam, are you saying that if you stopped believing in God, you wouldn't have a reason to want to stay alive?
that's what I'm scared of.
You're afraid that you wouldn't have a desire to stay alive, or you're confident that you wouldn't?
Oh, I'm scared because of uncertainty.
Okay. I'm not certain about anything. I'm not afraid of being dead. I am afraid of potential ways to die. And I'd rather stay alive because life is a good thing and it allows me to keep enjoying things and learning things and exploring things. What does a God or an afterlife add that would make it more desirable for me? Because to me, the notion of an afterlife cheapens the only life we know we're going to get. Life is its own reward.
Well, what does it add? You want to go ahead and stay away from the afterlife as much as possible. Fight as hard as you can to go ahead and imagine, eternal damnation, eternal hellfire, or many different depictions of hell, of different ways it goes on. It's just, yeah, that's a very strong reason to keep kicking.
But life is its own reward. I don't need the threat of a hell to want to stay alive. And I don't know why anybody does. But even if somebody does, that's, as Promise is pointing out, that's a matter for therapy. It's completely independent from whether or not it's true. The fact that you could sit around and be really happy and have no fear because you're convinced that you have an invisible friend that is walking around and is going to keep the bad things away from you. And when you die, it's going to walk you to Candyland. You can be incredibly happy about all of those things, but you might still be completely delusional. And then you will have wasted the one and only life you know you're going to get by believing in and acting on behalf of things that aren't real. That would be a waste, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily.
It wouldn't be a waste to spend this life focused on another life that doesn't exist?
It depends on which way that influences you to live. Like how it was in the South Park show with the Mormons. Some what this is, inspires me to live in a very healthy way where I love my family. You know, I love my life. So hey,
Except
even
that
if it wasn't true,
except that
I was
Mormonism
happy.
except that Mormonism comes with baggage that destroys family and is based on lies and delusions. And so they will waste the one and only life they have in service and in slavery to an idea that isn't true. I think the truth matters. I'm sorry
To
that you
answer
don't.
your question, it would benefit me more to know two things. That was your question, Matt.
So if you don't know whether it's true, you're okay though with going ahead and pretending like you think it's true if it makes you feel good.
I guess so.
Okay. I'm not. I don't find that to be rational. I don't find it to be good advice. I find it to be pretty awful. And because that justification that you presented can be used to justify anything. It can be used to justify being a good person or a terrible person. It can be used to help people or to kill people. It can be used to grant more rights and freedom, or it can be used to deny rights and freedom. Because as soon as you set it up as, I know the truth in the right way, when it's not, you are now actively lying to yourself and others, or at least spreading misinformation. I won't necessarily say lying because you may not know it's true. And that is by definition doing more harm.
Well,
And
I
you now
watched
have
you, so I wouldn't.
no, and you have no grounds. So like you've decided that you're comfortable with this version of God, and I've decided that I'm comfortable with this other version of God, and we both have the exact same justification. We have no evidence, we have no reason to think it's true, but that one makes you feel good and this one makes you feel good. And mine says you should die. How do we fix that?
That's not in my hands. That's in. I have no control over that.
Okay.
Right, but
Well,
Matt's just explaining to you why we should care if something's true or not. Because if we argue for this idea that, well, some people, it makes like it gives them a shortcut to finding meaning or purpose in life, and it lets them outsource some things. It's not. That's still going to end up impacting you negatively as well.
if my religion and your religion are on equal footing with equal justification, and my religion says you need to die, you have nothing that you can do to stop me from having that view. Are you just going to give up and just be dead?
I mean, that's the reality either way. Like,
No, it's
I mean,
not.
like,
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. If instead of just going with your feelings, you care about justifying whether or not your beliefs are actually true, both people cannot justify that their beliefs are true. If two beliefs are in conflict, only one of them is demonstrably true, right?
if the two are in conflict, the two can't be true at the same time. Yeah, correct.
Correct. And so if the path to truth is reliable, then we should follow the path to truth. And if we don't have a reliable path to truth on the issue, then the best course of action is to not hold a position on that issue other than that no rational position is justified. But if you change your epistemology, which you have, to prioritize your feelings over facts and falsifiability, then everybody else gets to do that too. You have no grounds for saying they're behaving irrationally, that they don't care about truth. You have no grounds for saying you're right and they're wrong. It's just an opinion. And so now you have chaos, because instead of following a reliable path to truth, you just advocated for, hey, I'm just going to go with my gut. I think people who do that are failing their civic responsibility and duty, are responsible for there being thousands of denominations and constant conflict because they want a special criteria by which to judge claims rather than saying, I don't know, or I don't have good enough reason to believe this is true. They want to feel special. I don't. I want to be right.
There's room for us to do this without there being chaos, like how you said, like when the belief goes ahead and crosses over to, well, because of my belief, I believe that you should be killed. Like that's when we have to go ahead and
do what?
To go ahead and protect the society.
Okay. Why should we be having to protect society from delusional beliefs where people think that they have the right to kill somebody else? Why is it that your beliefs that they're wrong are exactly as well founded as their beliefs that they're right?
You lost me a little bit with the wording, but just that we will have to go ahead and value human life, and just you will have to have your society not allow people to go around murdering.
No, that's your opinion. That's your opinion that we should value human life, and my opinion is that we shouldn't. If my opinion is that we shouldn't, then you have no justification for saying we should. And if your view about that we should is based on the same it makes you feel good, that my feeling that we shouldn't is because it makes me feel good, then we're on equal footing. We have no external thing. I'm still fucking talking.
Sorry.
We have no way to distinguish which of us is right if we do not have an agreed upon method for determining what is right.
Opinions on morality are always subjective.
I didn't ask about opinions, and I do think that morality is situational and that ultimately there is no objective morality, but I wasn't talking about morality. I was talking about whether or not your views are rationally justified, and you're admitting that they are not, and you don't care that they're not. Are we stuck, Sam?
You didn't ask me a question.
No, I finished my thought, and I was expecting you to say something. And when you didn't, I asked if we were stuck. Okay, thanks, Sam.
Okay, bye, Matt.
And promise. It's wild, and it's, you know, we reach a point where I don't know that we can go any further, because if you're going to say, hey, I don't have a way to demonstrate that my view is rational on this subject, and it doesn't matter whether the subject is God or morality, or whether the earth is flat, or whether vaccines cause autism, or whether women should be allowed to vote, doesn't matter what the view is. If you say, I don't have any way to demonstrate that my view is true, but I'm convinced it is, you are by definition irrational. Doesn't mean you're not right. You may well be right, but you are irrational because you're holding a view that you do not have any way to demonstrate, apparently, is true. And when we talk about how you might demonstrate it, if you're just like, this is the one that makes me feel good, now you've rendered truth irrelevant. You're saying it doesn't matter what's true. I'm going with this one. I'm going with the one that says men are better than women. I'm going with the one that says, you know, people should die. Whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is that if you and I disagree, we have no path to resolution at all. If I'm going to advocate for evidence-supported, reasoned arguments and proper skepticism, which means you reserve judgment on an issue until there's reason to warrant a conclusion, and you just run with what you feel and that's good enough, I have a reason, I have a justification to object to your view and anybody else who's running on just to feel. And my justification is external to me because it's about evidential warrant. The most you can do is say, yeah, I disagree. Well, cool. If we can't figure out how we're going to sort out the disagreement, what was the point of the discussion? Because I already know we disagree. We're wanting you to tell us, how can we find your God? What do Promise and I need to do to find the God that you believe in? Not, is it possible? Not, it makes you feel good, because it doesn't make me feel good. And even if it did make me feel good, the fact that I'm willing to accept something that makes me feel good over something that I have good reason to think is true, that doesn't make me feel good. That makes me sick to my fucking stomach, because that's what I did for all the years when I was a fundamentalist Christian studying to be a preacher. Anyway, sermon completed.
I had meanwhile, a candle going up in more flames than it was supposed to over here, but I was able to get that taken care of mid-sermon. So, just so everyone knows, if you're listening and you're a theist and you believe in a God and you can tell us why you believe in that God and why we should also believe in that God, we want you to call. We want to hear from you. We are taking theist callers. You'll, be at the top of the list here. In fact, atheist callers won't be on the list at all. And we would love to hear what God you believe in and why you believe in that God. We've got a couple more on the line still now to get to, if you are ready, Matt.
Yep, I'm good.
Cool. Let's talk to, do you know how to pronounce this first name? Zalos? Zalos? That's my best effort. Let's hope that he can tell us how to say it. Hello, you are live on the line with Promise and Matt. How do I say your name correctly?
Well, you could say Zaros. That would be fine.
Okay,
Zalos?
got it.
Okay, thank you.
Zalos.
So,
All right, it says here
I would
you
like
have an argument for God. So you believe in a God. Let's hear why.
Okay. So I have a systematic argument for God's existence, and I would like to present that. It basically consists of multiple premises, and it's like a proper syllogistic form, but it contains many syllogisms. It's not just one particular syllogism. It's like a collection of multiple syllogisms. So
Do you have a
would it be
printed
fine?
version? Do you have a printed version of this?
Do I have a printed version? I actually have it in front of me right now, but it's not. It's basically I've read this argument from somewhere else, and I sort of formulated it in a little different terms. But I think it's good. It's good to know.
I'm willing to give this a try, but I'll tell you, it's incredibly difficult in a live call-in format to have someone read you a lengthy technical argument, because I have to type it all and then evaluate it and consider it. But I will try to do that. Go ahead, and if it gets unwieldy, we're just going to be ready, because we're just going to interrupt, and we're going to have to do it in a more casual setting, because I can't see what you see. But give it a try.
Okay. So the argument starts with the premise that change exists. I think this should be uncontroversial. This should be accepted.
It should be uncontroversial, but I will reject it, because existence is so change happens. I would accept, but change exists. Existence tends to suggest an item, an object that exists with respect to space-time, and not merely an event that, this change is an abstract concept. It's not a physical thing. Change is this used to be this, and now it's this. So if you're fine changing that to change happens, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. So when I say change exists, that is precisely what I mean. I mean that change happens. It is something that we observe, something like that, right?
Yep, I'm good. Keep going.
Okay. So that's the first premise. The second one is that change is the actualization of a potential. So for instance, we see objects, and we know that objects have certain kinds of potentials. For instance, if I have a hot cup of coffee, it has the potential to cool down, right? It has the potential to become a cool coffee. If I have a 10-year-old, then I know that 10-year-old has the potential, for instance, to be 11-year 11-year-old,
Does a
right? Something like that.
does
A
a
movie. Sorry.
does a cup of coffee have the potential to get hot?
It does have the potential to get hot. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So what has to happen for change to occur in a cup of coffee?
Mhm.
Because to me, if you have a cup of coffee, no matter what temperature it is, there is no change
Yeah.
until that cup of coffee is acted upon by something else. The ambient air
Sure.
temperature
Absolutely.
lowers, or so that's not a potential of
Yeah.
the cup of coffee. That is change
Mhm.
that is based on the interaction of the cup of coffee and something else. So I don't see that this is the potential of, like, ontologically, the potential is not in the coffee, nor is it in the burner. It is in the interaction
Yeah.
between those two things.
I see. So I would just say to that, when we say that that the cup of coffee has the potential, we're not saying that the cup of coffee ontologically has the capacity to change, because change is again an abstract thing. It doesn't exist as such. It just is an abstract concept or idea. So what we are trying to say is that
The thing I'm objecting to here is the word potential, because potential implies that it is an ontological facet of the thing we're talking about. And so if a cup of coffee gets colder, that's neither the potential of the coffee nor the potential of the air temperature. It is a potential of the interaction of those things.
So, Matt, what if I frame this premise as something like this? If I say something like, if I have a cup of coffee, its potential to get cool, the potential of the coffee to get cool will only be actualized when it interacts with the cool air in the surroundings. Would that be a fair characterization which you would accept?
I don't think so, because I don't see that the potential is of the coffee. The coffee, unacted upon, will remain the same until something else around it changes. I mean, this goes right down to Newton's laws of motion. And since everything we're talking about is motion, if you have a cup of coffee at 28 degrees and everything about it remains the same, the ambient temperature stays at the exact same and everything else, there's nothing about the coffee that will change or get colder. It has to be acted upon by something else. We normally see this with things like coffee because we produce them hotter than the ambient temperature, so we see cooling and view it as natural. That's why I asked about the potential for the coffee to get hotter. I don't think those are potentials of the coffee. It's probably better described as each thing and change occurs when two, I'll say, facts about reality come into contact. That allows for a potential change, but the potential isn't of either of the facts. It's of the interaction.
Okay. So, if a hot cup of coffee cools down, we are not trying to say that the cup of coffee has the potential in the sense of being ontologically present in there. But what we are trying to say is that it has the potential to cool down in the sense that, yeah, it can really cool down. It's possible for it to cool down. It has the sort of capacity to cool down. That is what we mean by that word.
But
right. So
it doesn't have that capacity is what I'm objecting to. But the way you've described it, how is premise one different from premise two? Because premise one is change happens, and premise two, the coffee doesn't have a potential. That the other thing, it's premise two boils down to just change can happen.
No, so to be clear, premise one says that change happens or change exists, and premise two is stating what change is. It's basically saying that change is the actualization of a potential.
Oh, okay, well then I would say that at best you have those backwards, because we should start by a definition. But so change is I'm not the actualization of potential. It's not a potential of either of the components involved in it. it's a potential of the system, and then that happens. Okay, fine. I'm fine with the notion that change happens, and change is the actualization of the potential of a system.
Okay, sure. That would do. So
Okay.
from these two statements, it follows that actualization of potential happens or actualization of potential exists. That basically both means the same thing, right? From the two statements, it logically follows, right?
Yeah. Change happens. Change is
Okay.
the actualization of potential of a system. Therefore, change of the actualization of potential system happens. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. So these were the three initial starting points, and then we would move on to the fourth premise, which is that a potential cannot actualize itself. There must be something actual to actualize a potential. So, for instance, the cup of coffee, the cup of coffee can become cool, but it can never become cool by itself. It needs the surrounding air to be cool, for instance. There must be some actual cause for it to cool down, right? Would that be acceptable?
I would agree that, to the best of my knowledge, that's true for coffee.
Yeah.
I have no way of demonstrating that it's true for all potentials, because what we're saying is the actualization of potential of a system happens. And so you talking about what the coffee can do on its own is irrelevant, because we've already removed the individual from this, and we're only talking about systems. And so not all systems have all potentials. So when you say a potential, the point is that you're saying the potential of a system cannot actualize itself. And I would say that's not true, because the system is both the coffee and the air temperature. It's not either one of those actualizing its own potential. It is the system actualizing its potential. And there's nothing external to the system. There's nothing required beyond the coffee and the air temperature for that to actualize. Okay. So in fact, the potential of a system can actualize itself.
Okay, so just as you've considered the cup of coffee and its surroundings as a system, can we, for the sake of understanding, can we consider just the cup of coffee as a system, and we look at it, as a discrete system, right? And we are trying to analyze what happens with it. Would that be possible? Can we do that?
If you want to view the cup of coffee as a system, what are the items within the system that are interacting, and what is their potential? That's going to be a case-by-case basis for every single system. Not all systems have the same potentials.
So sure, not all systems have the same potentials. That's completely fair. So if we consider a cup of coffee as a system, what we're trying to say is that this system has the capacity, or it can cool down. For instance, if it's
it can't. No, it can't. We already established that. The cup of coffee on its own, even if it's a system in some contexts, does not in any way have the potential to cool down on its own. That requires an interaction with the ambient air temperature or an ice cube or whatever. Okay. It has to interact with something other than itself.
That is true. Yeah, that is true. That is totally fine by me. So what I meant to say is that if a cup of coffee exists, and if there are certain conditions, that is to say, if the surroundings of that cup of coffee are cool, the surrounding air is cool, then the cup of coffee can cool down, and it probably will if everything is left by its own devices, if the air is really cool. So
but we got past, so premise one, change happens. Premise two, change is the actualization of the potential of a system. Therefore, the first conclusion is the actualization of the potential of a system happens. Yes. Or I should say can happen, because there's not a guarantee. Some things don't always happen just because they can. But yes, we could say can happen. Yeah. Then your next part of your argument started with a potential cannot actualize itself. But that's false, because the potential is of the system. And by definition, it is the interaction of the things within the system that realizes the potential. So the first premise of your second part that says please don't fucking interrupt me. The first premise of your second argument that says a potential cannot actualize itself is false by your own admission, because we're not talking about the potential of an item, we're talking about the potential of a system, and the system by definition includes the components that can actualize that potential.
I think so. The statement which you've considered is it's an incomplete statement. The entire statement is that a potential cannot actualize itself. There must be something actual to actualize a potential. That was the complete statement, to be clear.
Okay. I don't need the complete statement. The first half of that complete statement is wrong, because we've defined the potential as the potential of a system, not the potential of an item.
Okay. Yeah,
so
sure.
the first premise of your second one is based on what you previously had, which would be essentially the coffee cup has the potential to get cold, but it can't do it without something else acting on it. And we've already rejected all of that. The coffee cup has no potential at all, and has no and is insufficient for changing its temperature without this extra one. And it is that interaction that is the system, and that system has the potential, not the cup of coffee.
So, as I said earlier, that if we are willing to consider the cup of coffee as a system, then we could say that if this system exists in certain conditions, then it has the potential to cool down, right?
No. You need, so this is basic set theory. Here's the set that is the system of a coffee cup. On its own, we have no reason to think that that coffee cup can change, it has the potential to change its temperature. Instead, that requires the interaction with some other thing like air temperature or ice cubes or whatever. And that becomes a new system. The coffee cup and that thing, that system has the potential to change the temperature of the coffee cup.
Okay. Let me think about this for a moment.
Okay. But since we don't have dead air, hey, Arden, while he's thinking about it for a minute, why don't you run through the announcements real quick again? Because we're going to be on the air for about 54 more minutes, and then I think we're going to a Cus I Wanna. But I know that we have T-shirt announcements and stuff like that for the Zerba family and other stuff. And I'm gonna let you sit there and think for a second, Zalos. I'm just gonna put you on mute so Arden can make an announcement, and then we'll come back to this.
Yeah. So, for those of you who donated to our Secular Student Alliance fundraiser, we have a couple of designs that were rewards for you guys for your donations. For the $500 and up donors, there is a super exclusive Zerba family shirt that looks like this. Details to claim that are going to be in the description of this video. A lot of you have already emailed me. If you want to just reply to that same exact email thread so we can bump that to the top, I will then start getting those out this week. And then this design, the Mozerb shirt, is currently available for many of you, and for certain donors of $100 or more. I think there is something special to access here too. But all of that will be on linemerch.com, so you can go over there and check out those designs right now.
Awesome. I'm gonna unmute Zalos. Thanks for your patience. Go ahead and tell us what you've thought of.
Okay, so I would like to say that if we consider the cup of coffee as a system, and if we say that if this system exists in certain conditions, by which we mean that the surrounding air is cool, if that is the case, then yes, the cup of coffee will cool down, something like that. That would be fair, right?
Okay, you just restated the thing that we've already rejected. We've already accepted. It doesn't matter whether you consider the cup of coffee a system. The system that has the potential is the cup of coffee plus air temperature, or the cup of coffee plus an ice cube. The ice cube and the air temperature aren't a part of the coffee system, but that joint system of the coffee and the thing that together with it would allow change, that is the system that has the potential for change.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sure. So I would accept what you just said. So
keep going.
I think it would be I think it would be good to move on to the next premise because I don't think there's anything which is stopping the main force of the argument. I would not object to anything that you've just said. The fifth
Okay.
statement is that change is caused by something actual, because the fourth premise was that a potential cannot actualize itself. There must be something actual to actualize a potential. And I know you have something to say about that earlier, but I've essentially accepted of all of your what should I say, the caveats, the conditions that you've imposed.
What is this? What is this premise again? Change is what?
Therefore, change is caused by something actual.
So change is caused by the interaction of the components of the system,
which are actual. So change is caused by something actual.
So far as we know, like I don't have any reason to think that something that isn't actual could be a part of a system that could cause change. I don't have a way to demonstrate that. I would agree that that generally sounds absurd. And so wouldn't it be better probably to rewrite this premise as the components of a system must be actual? And I don't know how to demonstrate that.
Okay, sure. So I think what you're basically saying is that any components of a system must be actual in order for some sort of change to occur in that system or within that system, right?
Well, if we observe change, we don't necessarily know the full scope of the system. For example, if we notice that the coffee cup changes temperature, but we don't yet understand thermodynamics and heat transfer, then we don't have all the data about the system. Once we learn about ice cubes and air temperature and heat transfer and fluid flow, and entropy and the change, once we learn about those things, then we have a better understanding of the system. And since we don't know any system in full, get to Gödel's incompleteness theorem as well, I don't know how we can say that only actual things can be a part of a system. But for the sake of this argument, in order to keep moving, I would be willing to say that for the sake of this argument, we are only going to consider systems with components that are actual.
Okay. So then we would just move on to the next premise, which is that in order for something to change, it must exist. So for instance, if I have a red cup of coffee, if I have a red water bottle, if its color has to change, it has to exist. If it just stops existing, if it just pops out of existence, its color cannot change. So the premise is, again, it says that in order for something to change, it must exist.
I understand the intuition of that, and I think it goes with what we were saying, because we are saying that systems must include things that exist. However, we don't know this to be true. I have no way of demonstrating that something that doesn't exist could change. It seems absurd, but under, for example, many theistic models, they have a creation ex nihilo, that God created the universe out of nothing. And since God is unchanging in those scenarios, and God created a universe out of nothing, then that violates this premise, because it is the nothing, I suppose, or the system of nothing and God that changed. And so since one of the components didn't exist, and God didn't change, then the notion of creation ex nihilo is violated by this particular premise.
Yeah, if we assume that particular thesis, that particular theological view,
I'm just pointing out what it rules out. So what's next?
Yeah. So okay. So the next premise would be, so just before I go on to the next premise, I would like to essentially introduce two different kinds of series. One is, which I call a linear series, and the other one is a hierarchical series. So a linear series is a series in which it's a causal series basically, but it stretches back and forth in time. So for instance, my father caused me, and his father caused him, and his father caused him, and so on and so on. This is a linear series, and the reason for that is that we're basically moving backwards in time. You could have another causal series in which I have a child of my own and they have a child of their own, and so on and so on. This kind of a series would be stretching forward in time. We would have to go forward in time in order for the series to make sense, right? So these kinds of series in which we are moving back and forth in time is called a linear series. And a hierarchical series is one in which we do not move in time. We're basically existing in the same moment, and at that exact moment there is some sort of dependence. So one example which I would like to give is, I know it's not a perfect example, you could just poke holes into this example, but I think
why are we? No, I don't know. So I'm gonna put a stop to this really quickly because it's already been 23 minutes, and everybody other than you and me is sitting here with their eyeballs bleeding, ready to claw their brain out from sheer boredom of how absolutely useless and irrelevant this is. And now, instead of even using standard stuff, you're going to do this linear series talking about moving backward in time or forward in time when none of that matters, none of it's relevant, and nothing needs to go backward and forward in time. Change happens. Change is the actualization of a potential of a system. A potential of a system cannot actualize itself is the next one, but we already agreed that's false, because if the system is the units that manifest change, then the potential of a system can and does manifest itself. And in fact, we have no reason to think anything else could. The potential of matter and energy to expand, for example, to become space-time, is a function of the system of matter and energy. What is it you're getting to? What is it that you're hoping to? Where does a God come into this? Because all I see is that you're essentially saying, hey, there has to be some explanation for change, and it's a system. So what are the parameters of the system where one of those parameters is God, and what is the other parameter that led to the change that becomes reality?
Okay, so just as I said that this is going to be a long argument. It's not very long, but
it's going to be done. It's going to be done really quickly. I'm trying to give you space to say something useful without short-circuiting this. We are not going to keep going through, because everything you've said has had to be altered or changed before you get around to recognizing that it's sloppy. So what is the key point of your argument for God? Go.
Well, in order to demonstrate the key point, in order to demonstrate the key point, it would be necessary for me to lay out these distinctions, such as the linear series.
It fucking wouldn't. No, it's not necessary for you to explain why you're convinced that a God exists by pretending that the rest of us are so stupid and uninformed that we need you to explain things that you get wrong repeatedly. Call back when you've thought about it some more. Thank you. Well, I would have to give a lecture for the next 30 minutes in order to teach all you Luddites out there the difference between a linear series and a hierarchical series. No, you're completely changing topics. One is about change, and this is also tied to classical arguments like the various arguments for contingency, that some things are essentially contingent on other things. And I would say that change is a contingency. Change is a contingency that requires the right components of the system: a cup of coffee at temperature X and some ambient air temperature below X. Those things are sufficient as a system to lower the temperature of that. And by the way, it will also raise the ambient temperature. They don't necessarily transfer heat equally. And we know all of this stuff. If that is the foundation that leads to your conclusion that there must be a God, linear series is irrelevant. Hierarchical series is irrelevant. You're essentially, I want to know, what is the evidence that shows that there is a system with at least two components? One of those components necessarily is a God, and the actualization of the potential of that system is space-time. I want you to tell me what the other component is and how you know that this system necessarily requires a God to produce space-time. I don't need any more lectures because I'm the one correcting them.
The best
All right.
I got out of that argument is that coffee is God, which sometimes, if you ask me in that moment, that's what it is. So I'm very excited. We have a caller here, Danny, and it
Yay.
says that he wants to tell us something. So I'd like
Okay.
to bring him on. Hey, Danny, you are live on the line with Matt and Promise. What is it that you wanted to tell us?
Hello there, Matt and Promise. I want to say that I am very afraid of the idea of hell. I thought it was like, because I've questioned my beliefs, but I just can't shake it off, and I think that people are just going to go to hell. And I'm not talking about like a childish hell that I was taught, but something different,
How do you know?
Do you believe that Matt and I are going to hell?
Well, I think that atheism can make a person doubt like an intrinsic morality that exists, and I think that that might take you there. And I think hell is not just this the way that it's portrayed in South Park, but I think it exists in this universe somehow.
So you think hell is something? It's an actual place that people go after they die physically.
Well, it is I think an emotional or state of mind, and I do believe in reincarnation, and I think that we, in some weird way,
I'm very
still
confused.
exist.
Hold on.
Yeah.
So you think that there's
Yeah.
hell, but then you think that we reincarnate. So which
I think
one is it?
hell is in this life. Hell is in this universe.
So we're
I think there's no
redefining
outside.
hell. Okay, so you think that how? So you believe in reincarnation, then, not so much hell. What's your evidence that reincarnation is real?
Oh, but I want to repeat that. To me, hell is a state. It's a state you're in. It's a
A
state
state,
within.
as in what? A state of mind, as in an emotion, as in a thought, a state in the U.S. Like, what are we saying here?
No, it's a mental, emotional, physical state.
Okay, and how would one know? How would you determine if somebody is in hell or not?
Well, they know it personally. They know it.
No.
I
So
think.
Danny, we
Yeah.
really need you to answer the question that we asked and not something else.
Yeah.
We're asking
Well,
how would any individual know that they are in the state that you think is hell?
okay. I think they can tell in the sense that like you're conscious. This idea that you are the only one who knows that you're conscious. So in that same way, you can determine this. It's not something that one can see from the outside. It's something that you only can be aware of.
How would you know if someone's?
If
How
I'm
would
the
you know the
only
difference
one that
between
can be
somebody
aware of it,
lying? Sorry,
Like
it's this
for
delay.
instance, the way I would say it is like this: most people that think in terms of materialism. Are you there?
no, I need you to answer my question. If the person experiencing it is the only one who knows it, how do you know this is true? You're not other people, are you?
No, but I
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I have experience.
How is it? I know. Is it you? You don't have experience of what I experience, do you?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. So how can you make a statement about that? I will know it if I experience it.
No, I do not know if you know. I don't.
That was
know.
your whole thing. That was your whole thing. We literally asked you, how can somebody know if they're experiencing the thing you call hell? And you assured us that if they were experiencing it, they would know it. And then when I pointed out that you can't know that, now you want to change and pretend like you either said something else
But
or
no,
whatever.
but people can say themselves, I am in hell. This life is hell. They can say it.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask you what people can say. I asked you how you know that someone else can experience the thing that you say they can experience. Can I
How do I know that
experience?
they can experience
Can
hell?
I?
Is that your question?
Can I experience sadness?
Yes, you can. Yeah.
How do you demonstrate that I can experience sadness?
Well, it's an emotion that is universal, and
It's not
I can assume
universal.
that you're
It's
experiencing
not.
it. I
It's
can.
not. It's not universal. It's not universal.
It's not universal.
There are people who do not experience sadness. There are people who do not experience pain. There are people who do not experience joy. There are countless normative human experiences that we would describe with each other that are not universal. And the only way we can know that other people are experiencing them is by them saying they're experiencing it, going through and finding the description and seeing if the descriptions match enough. So give us a fucking description of the fucking hell that you think we all fucking experience, even though you acknowledge that you have no fucking way of knowing that.
Well, I don't know why you're this mad at me. I
I'm
guess
not mad. I'm not mad.
I
What makes
triggered
you think I'm
somehow.
mad? What makes you think I'm mad? I'm not triggered or upset at all. What makes you think I'm mad?
Well, you're shouting at me and just
I'm not
you know,
shouting at all. I haven't shouted once.
an insulting.
You just
an insulting.
you just I didn't insult any. I didn't say anything insulting. I just used the word fuck. I used an adjective. Why do you think that means I'm mad?
I think you're upset. I
Okay.
think you're
Danny,
Why?
I think
asking
you're
me.
So
avoiding. I think you're
you know what
avoiding
makes me
answering his
upset?
question.
I'm not avoiding. I'm
You
answering
are
it at the best of my ability.
avoiding answering the question. I asked, why do you think
It
I'm
feels like
upset?
I'm talking to a
Shut your
kid.
mouth. Shut your mouth and let me finish, please. I asked you why you think I'm
Okay,
upset.
Go on.
I asked you why you think I'm upset, and you said, I think you're upset. Is that an answer to the question? Why?
Well, I think your behavior is
No. Here, I've muted you again. We're going to do this again, and now you're going to be treated like the 2-year-old that you're acting like. If I ask you, why did you think I was upset? And you said, I thought you were upset. Is that an answer to my question, why do you think I'm upset? Yes or no?
no, it's not.
No, it's not. So when I asked you, why did you think I was upset? And you did not answer that question, then Promise
did
was
answer
right
it.
that no, you did not, you fucking liar.
I did.
Promise was you
I
did
can
not
repeat.
answer it. You fucking
I can
did you
repeat.
shut
Don't
okay.
call me a liar.
You're a fucking liar. You're a piece of shit fucking liar who was avoiding my question. And when Promise called you out for avoiding it, you have now distracted everything. We have not done anything to discuss your actual fucking point because you were avoiding answering the very easy and obvious questions. I intentionally threw in a bunch of curse words in order to bait you into suggesting that I was upset about it because I know that you are a dishonest interlocutor. I am strongly convinced of this because every time that we point out a problem with what you're saying, you come up with some excuse and tap dance away somewhere else. You are not behaving honestly. Now I'm upset. Now I'm upset because you're a liar. I asked you a question. You didn't answer it. I asked you why. And while you may have spewed something out later after the fact, my question was, when I asked you why didn't you answer that question right away? Why did you instead say something that wasn't an answer to that question? Let's try again. Why did you?
Can I say
so?
Can I say?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is too fucking confusing to you. I've unmuted you now. It's very confusing to you. Here, I'm going to mute you. So, boom. Right now, you're muted. Nobody can hear you. You can talk all you want, or you can listen. I asked you, why do you think I'm upset? You didn't answer that question. Instead, you said, I think you're upset. I don't care if you answered it some other way, some other time. I'm now asking you. I'm going to unmute you in a moment. And I'm now asking you, Danny, when I asked you why you were upset with me, why did you choose to not answer that question immediately? I'm unmuting you now.
I said you're shouting and you're swearing. That's what I said. Everyone here heard.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again because you're clearly too stupid to know how to do this. When I unmute you, you'll then hear a beep, and then you can answer my question. When you say that you said I was shouting and cursing, that is also not an answer to my question. When I say, why did you think I was upset? It is not an answer to my question to say, I think you're upset. And it's not an answer to my question to say, you're shouting and cursing. I'm aware that I'm cursing. I was not shouting. But even if I was, the question was, why do you think I'm upset? That question no longer exists. Scrub that question from your head. Now we're going to the question, the one and only question. I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to say it in a minute. I'm going to say, I'm going to unmute Danny. You're going to hear a beep. And then the next words out of your mouth need to be, I didn't answer the question why, because, and then tell me that. Now I'm going to unmute you.
I didn't answer
And now
the question.
now you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Am I? Can you hear me?
I literally just said, now you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Thank you. I didn't answer the question because you're a power-abusing coward.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Do you have
coward.
You're going to run away. I'm the coward, though, right? I'm the coward that didn't run away, that gave you multiple opportunities to continue being a troll, that repeatedly asked you to demonstrate the truth in what you're saying, but I'm the coward. Well, I hope you sleep night. Maybe your mommy will bring you some soup in a bowl, maybe like a good grilled cheese with the tomato soup with some basil and put some Parmesan cheese on the top of it and a warm cup of cocoa for afterwards. And that will comfort you into thinking that you accomplished anything other than looking foolish. Anyway. I'm ready.
That was wild. Well, we've got a couple more theists before the show is over. Maybe one of them will actually have something. I'm trying to think, did anybody get to the point of presenting an actual argument yet tonight?
So I cut somebody off and didn't let them finish. And they had an actual argument. It's just that it's too long. They need to send it in.
Right.
Because every single point was a problem. And a lot of it had to do with sloppiness of language. And the reason why I dig in on that is because that's how you get to equivocation fallacies. And so every little bit of slippage you have at each point in the argument widens the potential failures. Like if your tolerance level for accuracy in premise one is 99% and your tolerance level for accuracy in premise two is 99%, that doesn't mean that you're going to be 99% accurate in the conclusion. Those are multiplicative. But anyway.
Well, maybe somebody can.
When there's other premises, somebody's going to complain.
Yeah. Maybe somebody will have like a clear, concise, or just answering honestly. I guess we never got to really ask questions with that caller that you're referencing. But the other ones, as soon as we got into the question part, it went south. So, do you care what order we take these calls in?
Nope. I'm unhappy.
Cool. Let's talk to Vincenzo. Hey there, you are live on the line with Promise and Matt.
What's going on?
We're just asking people to tell us how we can find their God.
Yeah. Do you have the method for us? Do you have the God belief and the way to get there?
Well, my main question would be, when it comes down to this, seems to be the root of the question is, what is the essence of anything? What is everything? Where does it come from? Does it end? Does it begin? All of these very fundamental questions. Anything else is sort of just dancing around the point.
So Vincenzo,
No, our question is do you believe in a God? And if so,
of
why?
course, yes.
That's actually the question. Anything else is just what other people are bringing up.
Okay, so I do believe in a God, yes, and it's a Christian
Okay,
God.
cool. Okay,
How do
why
we
do you
find
believe
that
in
God?
that God?
Well, fundamentally, I mean, specifically, what I would say for myself is that I hold that to be a personal belief. But I would say so much as, that it's every even like for your, my opinion of the atheist. I really what I would say is theology, because being an atheist really is a theology.
No, it's fucking not. Okay.
Hey, Vincenzo, why do you?
I'm almost completely done with Vincenzo already. I'm asking you to listen to me, Vincenzo, and you'll find out. Did you think for a second that I wasn't going to tell you why I'm almost completely done with you? Did you really think that there was any hope at all that that wasn't going to be the next words out of my mouth? No, you didn't. So stop talking and listen. We're looking for someone to say, here's how you can find the God that I believe in. I don't need anything at all about your personal opinions about whether or not atheism counts as theology when it has no tenets, no dogma,
I'm making a grander point.
Shut your mouth until I'm done. I don't know why you can't sit there and listen to the very thing that you seem to be interested in having me explain. Atheism has no tenets, no dogma, no instructions, no positions on anything other than, are you convinced that a God exists? If you want to say that you can have a theology that is nothing more than, I am not convinced that a God exists, fine, but you are advocating for something unorthodox and you are avoiding answering the very question that you are an invited guest here to answer. So why don't you stop wasting time and answer the question that you are here to answer? How do we find your God?
Well, I mean, first of all, the first thing, my first question for you would be is, do you believe that Jesus Christ was a living historical figure?
I'm sorry. You don't get to ask me any questions. There are no positions that I have.
Here's what I'll say then. So here's
no,
what
you
I'll
don't
say.
get to.
So
Okay,
Jesus
no, you're not
Christ-
going to. No, you're not going to get to say a word. I'm now muting you. There is no position that I have. There is no position that I have that is remotely relevant to your argument for the existence of God. If you think like that, you are incredibly ill-informed about the nature of reason, because my existence and my positions and my views on things are completely irrelevant as to how we can find your fucking God. So once again, I'm going to take you off mute. And instead of continuing to do what you've done so far, I need you to say, here's how you can find my God, and then explain how one can find your God. My view is irrelevant. Please go ahead.
All right. So I won't include you in my conversation here. So here.
No. Vincenzo, you don't seem to understand. When I unmute you, you're going to hear a beep. You should wait a second or two before you start talking. And then you need to say, here's how you can find my God. I don't need a preamble. I don't need you to whine. I don't need you to complain about how badly you think you've been treated. I don't need anything other than you, because you've now wasted 4 minutes of our time, to say, here's how you can find my God, followed by telling us how to find your God. Anything else, and this is not going to go well for you. I hope that's clear. I'm unmuting you now. Please tell us how we can find your God.
Jesus Christ is a historical figure. He is.
So I'm going to mute you again, Vincenzo, because you're either not serious, you're either completely dishonest and just sitting here trolling to try and piss me off, which you're not going to be able to do. This is not going to work for you. I don't need you to tell me that Jesus Christ was a real person, whether he was real or not. None of that fucking matters. You need to say, utter the words when I unmute you. You can find my God by ... You don't have to say the ... Just tell us. Okay? Try this again. Vincenzo, I'm taking you off mute. You will hear a beep, and then you can tell us how to find your God now.
You can find my God by looking at historical accounts of the fact that Jesus Christ was a real living person that existed in Judea at the year we commonly establish now in modern times as the Common Era, and through the teachings of Jesus Christ and what he has said on the earth and through the Bible.
Okay. Vincenzo, I have no way of verifying any claim of anything that Jesus supposedly said. And I have no way of showing, as somebody who used to be a Christian and who studied the Bible and who knows it very well, there is nothing about anything that Jesus said that in any way confirms that he is God. So let's try this again. How do I know that what the Bible? How do I know? I didn't ask anything about Alexander the Great. You're like a cartoon spewing forth something you're reading on ChatGPT, and you are completely unwilling to engage in honest conversation. I should absolutely just hang up on you now, but I'm going to keep toying with you and keep giving you an opportunity to demonstration that you are not a dishonest piece of shit, but instead are actually a thinking person that would like to do their obligation under 1 Peter 3:15 to give the reason for the faith that's within you, to actually work on behalf of the Holy Spirit, to show that you, as a real Christian, are actually better at this than I am or was. Because if I, as a godless heathen, can do a better job of defending your beliefs than you can, then I don't fucking need you on the show. So, question number one is, how do we confirm that the words attributed to Jesus were actually spoken to Jesus? And if we grant that those words in the Bible were actually spoken by Jesus, how does that help me find God? Because I'm aware of those words. I have read those words. I have preached those words. I need you to tell us how we can be confident that those words were spoken by Jesus and how those words confirm that Jesus was God. Anything else, and I will hang up. Here we go.
So first and foremost, the accounts of Jesus are largely firsthand accounts, right? Witnesses. And
no, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. So the Gospels are unsigned. We don't know who wrote the Gospels, but the general consensus among New Testament scholars is that none of these are Matthew. Gospel according to Matthew wasn't written by Matthew. The Gospel according to Mark wasn't written by Mark, and Luke, et cetera, et cetera. And it may not be the case that there are eyewitnesses, but that's irrelevant. Just for the sake of how bad you are at doing this, I'm going to pretend for a moment that every one of the Gospels was in fact written by an eyewitness. How does that confirm that the words were actually spoken by Jesus and that Jesus is God? So I'll concede your bullshit point for that.
Well, so the main, I mean, it's just basic logical thinking as far as historical.
No, I'm sorry, but you don't understand basic logical thinking, and you don't get to spew something off as, oh, it's just basic logical thinking. If the Gospels were written by eyewitnesses, is it possible that they could be wrong in the words that they attribute to Jesus? Is that possible?
But am I going to be allowed to talk at all, or is it just like I'm just...
Evidently not, because when I mute you to ask you a question and then I unmute you, about half the time you just whine instead of answering a question, which means you're not honest about this. See, we could have a conversation, but you keep being dishonest. So I'm going to ask you this question again. Is it possible that even if the Gospels were written by eyewitnesses, that our copies are not an accurate representation of the words that Jesus spoke? Yes or no?
Sure, yes. That could be a possibility, yes. Am I going to be allowed to make any points?
Listen to me, Vincenzo. If, in fact, they could be wrong, how do you demonstrate that this is an accurate representation of what Jesus said? That was my original question. I'm not redirecting. I'm pointing out that my original question is, one, how can we be confident that that accurately represents Jesus's words? And you've now acknowledged that even if they were written by eyewitnesses, which they weren't, they could still be wrong. So how do we show that there's, my original question still stands. How do we demonstrate that the words attributed to Jesus are accurate?
I'm not muted anymore?
You weren't muted this entire time for that one.
Oh, okay. Well, so in that specific instance, I mean, you have to, it's just the same as any other historical account. You'd have to look at all of the different, like, individual perspectives of the account and determine what do these have in common and what do they not. And it seems like, you know, an overwhelming majority of the Gospels do have the story in common. And if you look at the Greek manuscripts from the 400s.
All right, so here you're missing the point. I need you to tell me what method to use to show what the actual words spoken by Jesus were. Because among the different Gospels, some things are repeated. Maybe they shared the same source. Maybe they're accurate. Maybe they're not. We don't have any originals of any of the Gospels. We don't have anything dating really particularly close to when they were written. And so while, let's say, 2 Gospels say the same thing, are you saying that if 3 Gospels have Jesus saying this phrase, that is enough to determine that it's accurate, that Jesus in fact said that? Is that what you're saying?
That would be enough for a police officer. That would be enough for the court of law.
No, it wouldn't be enough for a court of law. That's actually, in a court of law, what you're describing there is hearsay. And in this case, it's hearsay from a witness that we cannot investigate, cannot even confirm the name of this witness, who this person is. And it's definitely not someone that is an eyewitness for the ones we're talking about. But even if they were eyewitnesses, that doesn't mean that they're accurate, as you already admitted. I'm sorry, but you're not fucking listening. Instead, you're trying to rush to, how do you know that eyewitness, blah, blah, blah. I'm asking you how to determine.
Exactly what you just said to me.
No. I'm sorry. You can't do this because you won't let me finish my fucking sentence. The burden of proof is on the person who says the Bible accurately represents Jesus. Correct or incorrect?
Said to me. I gave back to you what you said to me.
I'm sorry. I'm asking you a question, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the last question. I'm going to unmute you now. Are you ready for the question that I'm going to ask you?
Shoot, pal.
I'm not your fucking pal.
Why?
Because we're not friends, because you're a lying troll.
I'm not a lying troll. We're all made in the image of God. I love you as my brother.
We're not made in the image of God, and I don't believe that you love me, and I don't believe that you're an honest interlocutor because you refuse to engage in an honest fashion. So
that's what I've been doing the whole time. You're literally a dictator.
No, it's not what you've been doing. Stop talking and listen, and I will ask you the question.
God. You must have little children. This is how you talk to them all day.
No, I don't have any children.
I wonder why, godless freak.
I'm a godless freak. So you first.
There's the brother, the Christian brother.
Yeah. You first claim that I must have kids because I'm talking like this. And then when it turns out you're wrong, instead of acknowledging that you're wrong, like you've been about every other thing we've discussed, now you just change and then call me names. Anything else you'd like to say? Because I'm trying to find out how, if we do not have the originals and we do not have the ability to investigate, how can you confirm that the words there?
Have the originals.
I'm sorry. I don't know what.
Say
goodbye. Say goodbye, Vincenzo. You don't get to say goodbye, bitch. You don't get to say goodbye. If you were a sincere person, like, I can be a better Christian than you now, and I don't even believe. The facts are that we have no way of confirming that what's attributed to Jesus in the Bible are words that Jesus actually spoke. But even if we did, there is nothing in there that confirms his divinity. It's barely even clear that Jesus makes any statement or view about his divinity because he's occasionally vague. And so you have no idea what he said or what he meant. But whether or not how we find out about whether or not someone is divine isn't based on what they say. And it also isn't based merely on what they do. He did a miracle. Do you not remember in the Bible when Pharaoh's priests did their miracles with their other gods? Have you not read the Bible where it says that some of you will be doing works in my name, and some of you will come forth and say, Lord, Lord, and I will say, depart from me, because you did not know me? Or I do not know you. The issue is, how do you tell if someone's divine? Because I could say Jesus existed, Jesus said things, the authors of the Gospels were eyewitnesses who almost entirely accurately recorded the words of Jesus, and where they disagree is largely immaterial. And then we could say, therefore, I'm going to say that I have a complete, accurate, correct collection of the important things that Jesus said and wanted us to know. And I would still then say, how does that prove he was divine? And if you could demonstrate it, you wouldn't have spent all that time whining and calling me a godless freak. You wouldn't have spent all that time pretending like you were being denied the opportunity. When we allowed you to call in to speak to thousands of people and have your clips go out and speak to tens, if not hundreds, if not thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, and the time that it spends on the internet, and instead of being a representative for the Holy Spirit, instead of doing your obligation under 1 Peter 3:15, assuming you were real, you decided to just be a problem and pretend that they were eyewitnesses when they weren't, and pretend that eyewitnesses confirm that the document's accurate when you already admitted that they don't. Whether they're eyewitnesses doesn't matter. Whether or not they're accurate doesn't matter, because even if accurate, it doesn't show that he was divine. You still have all of your work in front of you, and you know it. And you didn't piss me off. You just showed that you're bad at this. All right, we got another caller. And I'll give them all the free will or free reign to just engage with promise, because evidently I'm loud and shouting and cursing and losing it.
This is their chance. It's almost 1 a.m. So if I'm going to be convinced of a God with a bad argument, this is your time to try, but at least have an argument, please.
Knock her out.
Hey, Michael, you are live on the line with Matt and Promise. Let's see. Is it working?
I think you're in a great mood.
Oh, there you are. Hey,
Hi,
Michael,
Promise.
what's
Hi,
your
Matt.
what are you calling in tonight? Are you wanting to tell
Well,
us,
first
or
I
sorry,
want to
today?
say, anyone that thinks that Matt's in a bad mood doesn't know Matt. That's just his personality. I've been watching him for years. I love him.
Cool. Well, did you have a God belief you wanted to talk to us about?
Yeah. So, piggybacking off of Edgar and Jay before, I think what they were trying to say, and it didn't come out in their analogies with something rather than nothing, is the information that we all see around us. I think Matt knows me from the Unknown Author. He hung up on me last time, but we get along. But I was talking about the information that DNA provides us. Can you address that?
I'm
Michael, I don't believe that anything anybody else called in to talk had anything to do with information in DNA. I think that much like a dog with a bone, you are bending this to whatever your pet issue is. And I don't think it's fair or a good use of anybody's time for us to sit around and have you speculate or try to rehabilitate the arguments of other people. How can we find your God, Michael? That's all I care about. Tell me how to find your God.
Well, another way you could find God is by looking at, you're going to laugh a little bit, but looking at all the grandeur of the different, for instance, we could just be fuel like a car.
Michael, how does
and water.
Michael, how does grandeur demonstrate? I'm sorry, Michael. How does grandeur demonstrate? How is that a path to finding God?
Well, look at all the spices that we have: cinnamon and pepper and salt.
I'm sorry, Michael, but
It doesn't
Michael, I'm
doesn't have to
fine
be
with
there.
there are many. No, Michael, I'm fine with the notion that there are many spices. I will include that in the grandeur. I will accept that there is grandeur in the world. My question then is, how does grandeur help me find your God?
When you look around you, you can see all the information. The stripes on a zebra. We'll put the stripes on a zebra.
Michael,
How did it get so perfect?
zebra stripes aren't perfect, and nothing is perfect. And even under, like, for example, under biblical notions of creation, God doesn't claim that creation is perfect. He claims that it's good. So perfection is irrelevant. But the grandeur of the zebra stripes is still just grandeur. And so I'm asking you again, Michael, before I have to hang up on you, which I'd really rather not do, how does the existence of grandeur help me find your God?
So, it's a tough
You sat on
question.
hold. You sat at Michael. You sat on hold for an hour and 6 fucking minutes.
Well,
And
because
the whole
what I wanted
stop
to
talking,
talk
stop
about.
talking, stop talking. You sat on hold for an hour and 6 fucking minutes in a show where all we're doing and all we've done with callers repeatedly over and over and over and over again is tell us how to find your God. It's literally the only thing we give a fuck about. It is the only reason we're having the show.
Okay.
It is right. Stop talking. It is right there in the description for the show. And you don't have a single fucking thing to say when we ask you the very question that is the premise of this show. Why not?
I was talking about nothing, something coming from nothing originally. And I was piggybacking off of those gentlemen that were on the phone. And what I wanted to ask you is that 13th.
No, Michael. I'm going to unmute you in a second. You're muted right now. And when I do, tell me what question I just asked you.
What reminds me of grandeur?
No,
Is the
I did
question,
not.
right?
I never asked you what reminds you of grandeur. The question I just asked you is how you could sit on hold for an hour and 6 minutes knowing exactly what we're asking everybody and have no fucking answer. But prior, but prior to that, the question it was, how does grandeur serve as a path to finding God? Answer either one of those questions, and I'll let you continue.
The subject changed while I was on the phone. It changed a bunch of times. So I didn't want to repeat what somebody else said.
Michael,
Matt,
the subject
I'd like to
is
talk to you about
no, Michael.
13.4 billion years ago. There was
No, Michael, listen, I've muted you. Nobody can hear you. The subject did not change. 5 minutes before we went live, I told Arden, I said, let's make the topic of the show, how can we find your God? We talked about it at the start of the first call. We have talked about it at every fucking call. The topic has not fucking changed this entire time. And I don't give a shit what you want to talk to me about. You sat on hold for an hour now and 6 minutes, and you had nothing to say on the subject that we asked about. So now the new question is, why should we waste the last 2 minutes of the show talking to you? What are we going to get out of it?
I'd like to use one of your examples from a talk that you gave. You said one time, and I listened to you for many years, man. I respect you.
Michael, why would I need you to present my talking point to my audience?
Because it made a good point for creation instead of evolution.
No, okay.
You said.
Okay, hang on. Michael, everyone, is going to give a quote from me that supports creation more than evolution. Go ahead, Michael.
Correct, Matthew. Correct. Okay.
Okay.
So
So first of all, don't call
In
me
the-
Matthew, and I don't need you to say what's correct. I need you to get to the fucking point because we got about a minute left.
all right, let me get fucking to it, since we're all ready and waiting to hear. So
Yes.
you said
keep
in the leaves,
puffing.
if you found out if there was writing in the leaves that said Mary loves Jim, then you would
Michael,
presume
Michael, has anyone in the history of the world found writing in leaves that said Mary loves Jim?
you said that if you saw it,
I'm sorry.
you would presume
I'm
there was
sorry.
a
I'm
creator.
sorry. I'm sorry. I don't need you to answer about what I said with an if. I asked you, has anybody found that? And the answer is no, which means the thing that I pointed to as potential evidence of intelligent design has not been found with regard to creation. Goodbye. You know, I would have much rather played chess, but Michael and others had to try to invoke the name of, I guess, the quasi-occasional in-boss and pretend like, oh, no, I was just here for this. I don't know how you can sit on hold for an hour on a subject that repeatedly says, how can we find your God, and not have an answer to that.
Or listen to the show for years. Every Sunday, the Sunday show is the same thing. We're asking theists to call in to tell us what God they believe in and why. And if there is a God, we would hope that they would be able to demonstrate that. And then we would end the show. I guess I won't speak for you, but if somebody convinced me, I'd be convinced and I would be a theist. And here we are ending another Sunday show. I feel pretty atheist. I don't know about you, but still
I'm
not
stuck.
convinced, guys.
Are there no theists left? Is there no one left who is honest and willing to come in and explain to us how we can find the God that you believe in? Do you not care about our souls, about our dispositions? Do you not care about us? Are you not willing to share the knowledge and how we can get it? Maybe you can call in on the Sunday show after dark, which starts in 2 hours, but right now you're being flipped over to Jimmy Snow for Cus I Wanna, or calling it now. Shit. Whatever it is, patreon.com/call the line.